in the hospital last month. So we were in the no, I was there for. I'm not touching it. I was there 5 days.
What time? Yeah, if you go to scholarship.
I think my wife came up. She said it's 20 minutes to 7. I was in the shower. It's not
Yeah.
shave.
Got them all. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the January 11th meeting of the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen. It's now 7 o'clock, so I'll call this meeting to order. You all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being recorded and televised by Chelmsford Telemedia. Is anyone else this evening recording the meeting? Yes. All right, anyone else? All right. Seeing no one else, we will move on to public service announcements. First on the agenda, we have Paul Ragazio from the Republican Town Committee here to announce the Maxine Vaistez Memorial Scholarship. Good evening, Paul.
Thank you. My name is, as Matt says, is Paul Ragazio, 25 Clover Hill Drive. Just want to initially take this opportunity to thank the two retiring select people, Janet Askenberg and Matt Hansen, for their many years of service to the town. At 77 years young, it's nice to see some of the younger generation following JFK's famous quote, "Ask not what the country can do for you, ask what you can do for the country." But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to announce the Chelmsford Republican Town Committee is now accepting nominations or submissions for the 2016 Maxine Vaistez Memorial Scholarship. Maxine was a longtime serving member and a leader of the Chelmsford Republican Town Committee, and we are proud to offer this scholarship in her name. The scholarship award this year is $750, and the winner will be announced in April of this year. We previously had made similar awards in 2013, 2014, and 2015. So this is a continuing effort on our part to support continuing education. The qualifications are you must be a high school senior who is a Chelmsford resident and planning to attend college in the fall. The student can be at Chelmsford High School, Neshoba Tech private school, home school, or student of any other school as long as they are a Chelmsford resident. Preference obviously will be given to registered Republican applicants. For those applicants under the age of 18, the same preference will be given to the applicants with at least one registered Republican member in the household. Submission will include an application and an essay expressing their opinion as to which of the Bill of Rights Amendment, the first 10, to the Constitution is the most important in their mind. So again, the first 10, the Bill of Rights Amendments, as we all know. The deadline for the application is March 31st, 2016. Information and applications can be found on the Chelmsford website, and the website is www.chelmsfordgop.net. And again, the Chelmsford GOP is happy to financially support our local graduating seniors. And I thank you for giving this announcement. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I have some applications here, if I can leave them with you. Any questions?
Sure. No, thank you so much for explaining the scholarship tonight. Any questions?
And again, we're proud to do this, so thank you. I'll leave this with us.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you, Paul. Next on the agenda, we have Dr. Jay Lang, Superintendent of Schools, and John Chemley of Trinity Ambulance here to receive a proclamation on behalf of Opiate Abuse Awareness Month. And I'll ask Dr. Lang to please come up to the podium. And would you like to speak before we read the proclamation?
Sure. Thank you very much. Jay Lang with the School Department. Very happy to be here this evening to recognize one of our community partners, John Chemley of Trinity Ambulance. As you know, we've been doing a lot of work in the schools with regard to opiates and with Opiate Abuse Prevention Month coming up. Both John with Trinity and actually also Joe Reddy with Reddy Realty have recently made a donation to the school department as we're going to be implementing a new Narcan policy within the schools so that our school nurses will have that resource available to them in the event that anyone after school hours primarily that ever had an issue would be able to have that resource at their hands. Both have been excellent, and John's work has really been wonderful. He's a great community partner. Happy to be here tonight to just thank you and thank him on behalf of the school administration and the school committee. So we appreciate you giving him this this recognition.
Great, thank you so much. We'll read the proclamation. Dr. Lang will ask you to give it to John. Okay, and then,
Town of Chelmsford Proclamation, Opioid Abuse Awareness Month, January 11th, 2016. Whereas every day thousands of Americans try opioids for the first time, and for many, this decision will have a profound impact on their lives and the lives of their loved ones. Whereas every day, far too many Americans are hurt by opioid abuse. From diminished achievement in our schools to greater risks on our roads and in our communities, to the heartache of lives cut tragically short, the consequences of opioid abuse are profound. Whereas preventing opioid use before it begins is the most effective way to eliminate the damage caused by its abuse. Together, we must recognize the horrific impact the ready accessibility to opioids has on our community, our state, and our union. Whereas education and positive role models play an integral role in preventing an opioid abuse, we must lead by example, adopt positive behaviors, and talk to our family and friends about living opioid-free. This month, we stand with local coalitions and community organizations as they advance their drive to keep young people, families, and our Chelmsford community free from opioid abuse. Ugh. Whereas opioid abuse affects everyone, we recognize that each of us must aid in the helping of our family, friends, and community members to make choices that support physical, mental, behavioral, and emotional health. During Chelmsford Opioid Abuse Prevention Month, we recognize all those who work to prevent opioid use in our community. Whereas we have invested in outreach programs that empower young adults with the facts about opioid abuse, and we have worked to stem the tide of prescription drug abuse through education, monitoring, proper disposal, and enforcement. Therefore, we, the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen, do hereby officially proclaim the month of February Opioid Abuse Awareness Month in the town of Chelmsford, Massachusetts. Furthermore, we invite all citizens of our town to duly note this occasion by doing all we can to support all community prevention and education programs and make opioid abuse prevention a public health priority. Signed this 11th day of January 2016. Matthew Hansen, Robert P. Joyce, Laura Merrill, George Dixon, and Janet Askenberg, and sealed by the town clerk, Honorina Maloney.
great. And to
Thank you very much again on behalf of the school committee and the school administration for your support this month. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I just want to recognize Dr. Lang and what you're doing for the school. This is very important situation here in Chelmsford, not only in Chelmsford, but in the Merrimack Valley, and also it's a national crisis. The opioid crisis is a national crisis. So the fact that you're recognizing how important it is to prevent this situation from happening is heartwarming to Trinity and to all our partners. I would like to invite someone from the town, whether it be the police chief or the fire chief or selectmen. We are part of a greater Merrimack Valley opioid task force that has just recently started meeting the first Friday of the month. And our last meeting was last Friday, and Tewksbury Police was represented, Lowell Police was represented, and I don't believe I saw anyone from the town of Chelmsford. So whether it be the Board of Health or someone from the town should be at these meetings, and we can continue our partnership. But as a result of this, I know it's going to make our town aware of what the problem could be and how we can mitigate the situation here in Chelmsford. Although it's not that bad, it is still a problem across the Merrimack Valley. So thank you very much for this. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your donation. Next on the agenda, we have Pat Wojcik here to announce the Hannaford Helps Reusable Bags Program. Good evening, Ms. Wojcik.
Good evening. Pat Wojcik, 24 Elm Street, and tonight I am here as president of the Chelmsford Friends of the Library. And you may be aware that Hannaford, who has a supermarket up in Drum Hill, they're a great neighbor to the town of Chelmsford. And for this month of January, they are having a program called the Hannaford Helps Reusable Bag Program. And I just want to announce this to the community. If you go to Hannaford this month and purchase one of their reusable bags, the Karma Cares reusable bag, $1 from each purchase will go to the Chelmsford Friends of the Library. The purchase price for the bag is $2.29, so almost half of the price of the bag comes back to the Chelmsford Friends of the Library. It's a great program by Hannaford's, and we definitely thank them for thinking of the Chelmsford Friends of the Library. They came to us unsolicited, so we definitely appreciate that, and hope everybody goes to Hannaford's this month and purchases at least one, if not more, reusable bags. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pat. Next, we just want to remind the community that there's a special town meeting taking place on January 19th, 2016 at the Senior Center. So all town meeting reps, please make sure you come that evening. And it is open to members of the public if you'd like to come and ask questions and certainly sit there and watch the town meeting take place. And that's January 19th. Next, the Board of Selectmen public input session. Our next input session will be held on February 1st, 2016. We'll be holding it right here in the Dennis Reddy Meeting Room, 204. So please come. We're going to spend the entire meeting focused on receiving public input. So we hope you can all come. Next on the agenda this evening, we do have open session if anyone wishes to address the board for any reason. All right, no one for, oh, yes. Good evening. If you could just please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Andrew Webman. I'm an attorney. I work for the Northeast Justice Center. I'm actually not a resident of Chelmsford. I wanted to ask if I could have a couple minutes to address the motel stay rule. I understand that Mr. Day is going to be giving a report on that rule. I was just wondering if I could have a couple minutes either after he speaks or before to just say my opposition to the rule.
Sure. I mean, if you don't mind staying, I would be willing to have you come and speak at that time when it's
Okay.
on the agenda after he speaks.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you
All
very
right, great.
much.
Thank you for letting us know. Is there anyone else for open session? All right, seeing none, we will move on to committee vacancies. Selectman Joyce?
Just got to turn it. Okay. Committee vacancies as of 1/11/2016. We have one opening on the Center Village Master Plan Implementation Committee. We have one opening on the Civic Committee. We have one opening on the Great Brook Farm Advisory Committee. We have one opening on Land Management Subcommittee. We have one opening on the Planning Board. We have two openings on the Public Celebrations Committee, 3 openings on the Recycling Committee, and 1 opening on the Tree Committee. If you're interested in applying for any of these positions, you can go to the town website, www.townofchelmsford.us, and fill out a form, and that form can be sent to the town manager's office at tmoffice@townofchelmsford.us.
Thank you very much, Bob. Next on the agenda, we're very excited to have our legislative delegation here with us this evening. So we will ask them to come up and have a seat. Join us. Good evening.
Good evening.
All right. Anyone else in the hallway?
Happy New Year.
Just you. Happy New Year.
Hello, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Good evening.
Hey, Jim.
Just the three of you for now. Tommy's here. Thank you. Well, good evening. I would love to ask you all to introduce yourselves to maybe let the people at home who are watching know who you are, maybe starting with Representative Golden. Would you like to?
Thank you very much.
evening.
Thank you for the introduction. State Representative Tom Golden, representing 2, 3, and 6, precincts 2, 3, and 6.
Great, thank you.
Representative Jim Arcero, representing precincts 5, 7, and 8 in Chelmsford.
State Senator Mike Barrett representing the entire town.
Thank you, Senator.
Representative Corey Atkins representing precincts 1 and 9.
Thank you so much for joining us here this evening. We're very excited to have you here. I believe in the past, one of you may have started off by giving us an overview. I think last year, Senator Barrett had given us your perspective. We're definitely interested in hearing from both the House and the Senate side what you see as moving forward this year. I know we've discussed in the past a few of our priorities, but if any of you would like to give us a little bit of an overview first of where you see things going for the upcoming year, and then if we have a few extra specific questions, we'd probably have a few we'd like to ask you as well. But again, thank you so much for coming this evening. So,
Corey?
Why don't we start with the House? Yeah, whoever.
Well,
There you
we have, there are specific things that different representatives have been working on. So I will leave double utility poles to Representative Golden.
okay.
And also,
Thank you.
is that all right?
You've taken care of that, right, Tommy?
And also House Bill 2870, an act relative to protecting consumers of gas and electricity from paying for leaked and unaccounted amounts of gas, is also in Rep. Golden's committee. Rep. Osceola and I are proud to say that we got your liquor licenses through and
Very excited about
signed by
that.
the
Thank
governor.
you.
And I should let Rep. Acero tell you about the Zabrick Memorial Bridge.
Sure, that would be
We won't know what we have just been confronted with 9 C cuts, but none of them are on revenue at this point. But it was only 50,000 out of 300 and something. 50 million out of $360 million. So he's got lots more places to cut. And I know that there's a great interest in the visitor center on Route 495. Last year, the governor put in $500,000 for tourism. And we had to up it to $6 million and then fight that battle. We have done a major study at the behest of legislation that Senator Tarr put in to revise the tourism formula, which would allow more money for things like that to be done. I've also met repeatedly with the Department of Transportation, who seem to be in agreement at every single suggestion I have, and then they do nothing. What we're trying to do is copy other states and get a deep pocket player in those locations so that they're consistent and don't depend on state money for their existence. And yet, for the privilege, the public-private partnership, we would be offered space for a visitor center. The one on 495 is now in such disrepair. It would take, a lot to fix that. You probably want to talk about that.
Yeah, no, just a quick comment on that. I mean, with the portable toilets, it's really not a great welcome to
Right.
Massachusetts. But I think the comment I would wish, if you could deliver that to the state next time you speak to them, the town allowed and permitted a wireless facility, a cell tower there, and that was to bring in revenue.
Right.
And yet they put the tower in, and yet we didn't get the facility reopened. And I think that's sort of a concern, meaning that, believe me, we got some opposition. As you know, anytime you get a communications tower, you get some pushback.
Right.
And we did. But again, that was permitted and installed there, and it brings revenue into the state off that location. But I think the concern was we saw the state get the revenue, but yet we didn't
And
see
you didn't get
we didn't see
anything.
the facility get reopened. I think that's the
Well,
troubling part.
we've been working on the tourism, the rooms tax alone brings in something close to, well, it's the third largest revenue generator in the state. And we get breadcrumbs from that. So that's one of the reasons why Senator Tarr asked for a redesign of the formula. What we did in that process was take the formula off budget, like they did with the life sciences bill. They put it in a trust so that it's not, tourism is not subject to annual budget appropriations, because for that industry, the appropriation is after or in the middle of the highest season. So it works counterproductive to their efforts. And so we're meeting with Ways and Means because it's supposed to be implemented this year. Some of the numbers may have to be tweaked. There's, this all Sunday, the news shows were saying we could be sliding into another recession. You've got a governor that won't tax. You've got a House Speaker that won't tax. We have lots of opportunities to tax what I call other people in tourism, because they come. We've increased our volumes, but we're losing our market share just because we're not getting the kind of investment that we need. But we could tax Uber, and we could tax Airbnb. We could, there's a lot of opportunities to bring in additional revenue to fix those problems and also help with other problems in the state. Yeah, all right, let me hand it on, sorry.
Sure, no problem.
Well, one of the things that's on the forefront of cities and towns right now, especially in the town of Chelmsford, is going to be the anticipation of Governor Baker's budget. The 27th of this month, House 1 will come out and will give us a framework in the House and then in the Senate to work with for fiscal year 17. So the 27th, we anticipate, the governor releasing his budget. And from there, the good thing, the positive thing, is that revenues are up. The consensus revenues they had in December had projected about a 4% increase, anywhere between 4 and 5% increase, which is a positive sign towards local aid, towards our economy continuing to improve. And I always say that the governor's House 1 budget is sort of like the first quarter of a fourth quarter game. From the governor's budget, we then come out with our proposal in the House of Representatives, which would be in April, and then May, the Senate, then a conference committee, and from there, the budget by the end of the fiscal year. So there are positive signs. There's good news this week as well, legislatively for Chelmsford. A team effort that Corey had alluded to. We all worked together to get 2 additional liquor licenses here in Chelmsford. I know that sometimes can be trying, sometimes a cumbersome process. But about a few weeks ago that was done, and we just all worked together very well on that. Also, the Andrew Zabrick Bridge. This was a legislative effort. We all worked very hard together to make sure that and honor his life, and that is also to make sure that we had on Route 4 as well as 495 proper signage to commemorate that he received a Purple Heart. These 3 pieces of legislation were accomplished in the last 6 weeks. But moving forward, we do anticipate, continued discussion about the budget. Again, we anticipate the governor's budget the 27th of this month.
Great.
I just want to say thank you very much to the town manager and the Board of Selectmen for sending us this information on December 11th, some of the stuff that I assume you folks want to talk about, and that be in relation to gas leaks, which is what you've folks sent to us, as well as double poles. And the gas leak, from the gas leak situation, last year the House and the Senate, and it was signed by the governor, an act relative to natural gas leaks. We've essentially dealt with grade 1 and grade 2 for the most part. Grade 1 and grade 2 are the more serious of the 3 sets of gas leaks. We are working on the 3rd set right now. We're actively working with the utilities. It has made a big, I think it's made a big advancement throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I just have to impress upon you folks that if there's something that you know that you hear through constituents, don't hesitate. If you don't feel as though you're not getting the response from the utility, which in this area is National Grid, please don't hesitate to give us a call. But from the grade 3 leaks, which are the less serious of the three, we are still working on a plan to try to get that done. There is a lot of discussion about when roads are opened. I mean, you have to remember some of the concerns that we have is tearing up every road throughout the Commonwealth to fix this. We probably have one of the oldest infrastructures, if not the oldest infrastructure in the United States. So it is difficult, but I think that with the help of the delegation and so many other people in the Commonwealth, we have really turned up the heat, if you would, on ensuring that the utility companies are paying attention to the gas leaks in the communities. But I can't say it enough. If there is an issue, if there's a problem, if for whatever reason people aren't being as responsive, I don't know if that's been an issue in the past, but we're here to listen. On the double pole piece, which is the bane of everyone's existence, I think here, as well as from your perspective, that just the statistics that I have in front of me right now is that they actually removed over 220 double poles in Chelmsford last year. Double poles are, I can't, the bane of our existence. I think you folks know the number of people that are involved in trying to even move one pole. And currently right now, there are about 185 in the town currently. That's numbers that I have. Could be up, could be down a little bit. But currently right now there's about 185, and they are chipping away at them. Now, the majority of those, I was told, were because of any type of new construction or something that was happening. Something that was happening that somebody was looking for, additional power to an area. That, however, I'm still waiting on National Grid to get back to me on all those actual numbers. But once again, this gets back into trying to coordinate the National Grid, Verizon, Comcast, Chelmsford, the fire, you're still on the pole as well. Trying to get this to happen, not simultaneously, but as quick as possible. Right now, Chelmsford is a little bit above. They're at 2.2, and National Grid and Verizon, they like the number to be below 2%. So 2.2% of your poles need some type of assistance. I can only tell you that we're on Verizon, we're on National Grid. We're continuing to try to push these folks to get this done. But you have to remember, this could potentially, we don't want to slow down if there's been any type of development going on. And if those double poles are necessary, we don't want to slow that down, that development down, to be taking out these poles. If anybody finds something completely unsightful, or if they feel as though it's a safety concern, once again, I know that the manager has called me in the past on a couple of particular ones, and whoever brought it to his attention, they were correct. They were they were completely unsightly, or they were dangerous, and they moved rather quickly to do that. So this is the reason that my good friends here are putting this on my plate, is because I'm on the Committee of Telecommunications, Utility, and Energy. Mm-hmm. And with that, I get an opportunity to sit with these folks all the time to discuss these issues. So I'd like to talk about all the fun stuff you guys were talking about, the bills that were passed and everything else. But
let me just thank you, Tom, very much, and Jim and Corey. To return to a point that Representative Atkins made earlier, I just want to reference where we seem to be in general financially, looking towards what will be fiscal year 2017, beginning on July 1st. We do have 4% growth in overall tax collections, and I think the governor has committed to increasing local aid by the projected increase in tax collections used to build the new state budget. So that would suggest that local aid is going to go up 4%. It's also true, as a number of my House colleagues here have mentioned, though, that there's a peculiar imbalance in the state budget that probably means some additional complications down the line. Our state tax collections are coming in well, but non-tax revenues, of all things, are throwing the state budget out of balance. We did have $50 million worth of cuts announced for 57 p.m. on Friday. We expect the state tax collections to run about $130 million above projections, so that takes care of some of this $300 million problem. But Plain Ridge Casino down in southeastern Mass is generating many fewer non-tax dollars than was used to put together this current year's budget, and now becomes a problem. The tobacco settlements that we've relied on, all 50 states have relied on since 1998, have to be divvied among the 50 states according to some complex formulas. The amounts attributable to Massachusetts are down compared to projections. So we have less tobacco money coming in, a source of non-tax revenue once again. The Secretary of State administers a number of funds, including the deeds collected by the registry, I should say the fees collected by the Registry of Deeds. For some reason, registry fees are down compared to what was estimated when this current budget was put together. So you've got these three problems with non-tax revenues: gambling revenues, registry revenues, tobacco revenues coming in under projection. It's triggered immediately $50 million in cuts. Even with the $130 million increase in state taxes, we've got a remaining gap, right? And no one knows precisely whether how we're going to bridge that remaining chasm in the 5 months or so remaining in this fiscal year, but it could trigger additional cuts. It is highly unlikely to trigger cuts having to do with local aid, but we're concerned that other accounts important to towns could conceivably be affected, and that's troubling. The final thing I'll say, and it's we're now going back to the particulars, is all of us are very concerned about two line items in different bond bills approved over the last 18 months that are of interest to Chelmsford. One is the $1.8 million to demolish 3 buildings belonging to UMass Lowell that are within the town boundaries here. Those have been secured, but they've not been demolished, and we're trying to get that money moving. And then there's $5 million in a transportation bond for improving Chelmsford Center, and that is critical to us. We've had a conversation about these monies in the past. You folks know how this works. Legislators push hard, and in this case successfully, to get these matters authorized in different bond bills, but the governor has a green light, red light approval, because there are many more authorizations put there by legislators on the books than there is money to pay for. So he exercises an additional filter that doesn't operate with the regular state budget. We're just talking now about bonded items. Advocacy with the governor thus becomes really, really important. And as I say, we've brainstormed a little about folks who might be close to Governor Baker here in town who could help us with the UMass Lowell demolitions or with the downtown improvements. Because while most of it is done on the merits, there is no question that effective advocacy by someone close to the governor's inner circle can help as well.
I just wanted to expound on something Senator Barrett said about 9C powers. It's actually the first time since 2001 that there has been, non-tax revenue has triggered the authority of the governor to cut, because we have an obligation, a national obligation as representatives, as senators, as the governor, constitutionally to have a balanced budget. So essentially, when revenues are not, matching up, we have to make necessary cuts. But again, since 2001 was the last time that it actually was that particular category. But 2009 was expanded 9C powers. And so expanded 9C powers are something the legislature would have to grant the governor in order for him to actually cut local aid. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to add in terms of the 9C cuts, tourism has been cut with the 9C cut. And money for the regional tourism councils, which are very active in Chelmsford. So we consider that in our minds part of the local aid package when we put these different formulas together. That money hasn't been released. So bond money hasn't been released from the governor, but line item money and earmarked money from legislators who got specific programs through, passed, signed by the governor, the administration has not released that money.
Interesting. On that note, I mean, in the past, we've written lots of letters as a board, both to you and to the governor's office. I mean, short of just simply writing a letter, is there any other steps we could do that go really above and beyond that, as far as making invitations, or maybe partnering with you on invitations to the governor or someone in the governor's, cabinet, to maybe even not just Chelmsford, maybe to the region, just so we can get a little bit more interest in both the West Campus and the downtown center, and what those improvements would really do to improve things? Any ideas?
I think that'd be a great idea if we could, and I think we should bring the secretary up. I would think Secretary Ash should be the guy to bring up on this. I mean, MassWorks grants, we've kind of increased those over the past year, but when we increase those, obviously the number of applications increased as well. So that's one difficulty. My fear is at the end of this month, we're going to see the administration pull back even additional funds. And those additional funds is what is hampering our ability to convince the executive branch to spend this money that we put into a bond authorization. I'm not suggesting he's doing it as a negative. He's doing it as something he has to do to make sure everything is balanced. So by the end of this month, I'm going to be extremely watchful to see what happens, and I know my colleagues will be as well, to find out what else will the governor try to start to pare back on. That's only going to hurt our ability, even trying to sell the project, which I think is a great idea, and we should get the secretary up here to look at this stuff. But my concern to follow up that is, how do we get that money? How do we loosen that money? That's going to be, I think, a real challenge.
Right. Yeah, no, it may not be the best time, but it's something I think we want to keep in mind. Just we want to make that extra effort, whatever we can do.
But, Mr. Chairman, I think it's a very good point well taken, and I think that we should work on bringing up the administration here to see what could happen and talk about, the economic impact of the small businesses in Chelmsford Center and the potential impact out on West Campus.
Great. Thank you.
Just one thought with respect to the UMass buildings, which in the past have really troubled residents of the neighborhood that sits right there. You've got a new chancellor of the university. I think sitting with her and reminding her that there's this outstanding issue, it would be interesting to see whether there's what's going to happen with that site after those buildings are demolished. Some thought needs to be given to reuse of the property. Therein might lie the possibility of a kind of win-win. The two people who could move that project for Chelmsford, you would think, would be the new chancellor, and then, of course, Marty Meehan, who knows a good deal about that site and saw some problems, I think, with resolving it easily. He actually had an interesting issue he was struggling with. The site had originally been purchased not as part of a regular expenditure of state money, even state money allocated to the university. That site in which those three buildings sit was originally purchased, I think, as a gift. It may have been a gift from the Wang family, I'm not sure. Because it didn't come originally as a state bounty, he would like to see the university partially compensated for whatever happens to the property upon clearing of the buildings. So to his mind, it's not a straight demolish, clear, and reuse piece. There's the question of the apportionment of proceeds from the sale of the property, and he would like to see some portion of it, I think, go back not to a general state treasury and to the town, but the town, general state treasury, and the university. I only mention this because I was hoping that he would manage to resolve this before taking his new position. There's no question that with the turnover and the transition, we're threatened with potential delay, but it's also the possibility that the current chancellor would be interested in figuring out how a win-win-win deal could actually go down that would be pleasing to the town and help the town with some eyesores and some dangerous buildings.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not sure we've had any renewed conversations with them since the new chancellor's taken office, so that may be something we can consider. Yeah. And I like that idea. Did you have a comment, George?
I mean, it's not aesthetics or anything. It's very serious public safety.
Yeah.
Issue. We had one fire in one building that was no longer there, and it threatened
I know.
many homes
Yeah.
and condominiums, and I mean, people were out there thinking they were putting more water on the buildings next door than they were on the fire because the fire was too far gone. But so I mean, it's very important that those buildings come down soon,
Yeah.
if possible. I mean, it's a life and death kind of type of thing.
Thanks, George, yeah.
Do members of the board have any questions for our delegation? Well, they're here this evening. I had a few. I think you touched on most of the questions that I had. I do know the governor released his municipal modernization bill that did have a lot to do with what municipalities here deal with sort of on a day-to-day administrative basis. I just don't know if any of you had any general thoughts on if there's anything you thought that was really good in there that you're going to be advocating for, or some parts that you maybe aren't so fond of and maybe fighting. But any
I think
general thoughts on that?
two key points to the bill. I think that certainly got a lot of media attention was a liquor license piece, which gave more local autonomy for cities and towns. I think minus Boston to have control over liquor licenses. I think that was one one piece that got a tremendous amount of interest. And I think the double polls piece too.
Right.
The governor's on board with that issue, and especially the past 90 days to be able to put teeth in the law. So I think those are two big pieces that were in there. But essentially, I think what the governor was trying to do was get his arms around, archaic laws or things that were obsolete to make things more streamlined and work with cities and towns to save money.
He and the lieutenant governor, as you know, all worked in municipalities at one point. So
That's true.
I think they kind of looked at these ideas as things that they had picked up upon through their years of service.
Yes.
So pieces of it have actually moved, have some interest and I think can move forward. The pieces as a whole, I have to yield to my colleagues to know if it actually had a public hearing yet. I know it was released in December, so I don't think it has yet. But.
Some of the stuff that's included in that whole bill is obviously some of the things that you folks already
Right.
sent. It's legislation that's already before committees. So that bill moving as a whole,
Yeah.
Probably maybe unlikely.
yeah.
Okay.
Right. I mean, are there things that you would like us to support? I mean, we love your feedback on the individual
Okay. Yeah, that's a good idea. We could actually.
recommendations, so that we can ask all of our boards and get that kind of feedback, because I'm sure leadership in both
Sure. chambers
would be interested in that.
Okay, I think that's something we'd be interested in doing.
And if you could prioritize them.
Okay. We can do that.
I had a meeting I had a question on the open meeting law. Where are we on that? And
You mean the public records,
yeah, the
perhaps?
public records law.
Well,
Where do you think that's going to go? And
I think it's going to
where is it now?
pass. It's before the Senate,
got there.
possibly as early as next week. It's passed the House. So you'll see a Senate version and the House version go into one of these conference committees where the differences are reconciled. I want to thank the board, and I want to thank the town manager for really being a source of information on, among other things, the public records reform. I think it's going to be a better bill for the towns having spoken out over the last 4 or 5 months. I still think you're going to see strong disclosure, strong citizen access, but it was good to hear from town officials to make sure that we didn't create too much of a burden illegitimately on municipal government. So I'm grateful to you guys for communicating to us as much as you do through your town manager, who does a good job of bringing some details to our attention that we might not have been aware of otherwise.
No, thank you for being open to that, because I don't know if you had any comments. on
Just
that.
a closing thought on a subject that's not in the relief bill and doesn't appear to be on the agenda, and it's the big elephant in the room. We talk about it every time you come here. It's OPEB. The crushing blow to cities and towns on a long-term basis, as well as the Commonwealth, is the OPEB, other post-employment benefits, are basically retiree health insurance costs. These, we just had our assessment updated because we're required every 2 years to do it, and we'd have to be putting aside $3 million a year to resolve this debt in a 30-year period.
Right now.
Right now.
It's going to go to 4.
And it's going to go and nothing, and it just next time we do it in 2 years, it'll
on
be
a
even
$100 million
higher.
budget.
Right, and a
So-
$100 million budget, and at some point there has to be some reform to rein this in. We know the legislature has repeatedly addressed pension reform. It seems that pension activity seems to get more attention at the State House than OPEB. I don't know why that's the case, but the bottom line is this is a serious issue that even if, put it this way, even if you're at a point where you grandfathered everybody in, like you've done with pension reform, at least somewhere you'd be starting to move. The problem is every year it doesn't get acted upon, another year goes by, and it's going to crush us in the long term in terms of we're basically kicking that can down to the generation that comes after us, who are going to have their resources constrained. And obviously the big driver in this are two things right now. One is the rising cost of health care, which no matter what solution, what program, what have you, Medicaid, whatever, that's, as you know, it's killing the state budget, it's killing the local budget, and it's killing OPEB as well because of the rising cost of health care, which no one seems to have a solution for. And then the other problem is these programs are funded upon investment returns. And as you know, following the pension situation, when you're accounting on a 7.75% return on pensions, and it doesn't happen, that waives that, as you know, we're required every 2 years to have our retirement assessment liability recalculated. So that's going to hit us again. So I know it's like wave after wave, but the bottom line is, these are off-budget situations. But what kills us in the long term is really the lack of addressing reform on OPEB. Which is just a shame that we're going to pass this on, to those who come after us.
Well, over the last 5 years, we did, three rounds of pension reform, forecasting to save about $10 billion over 20 years. Municipal health care reform, which this board was very engaged on, which saved about $1 million. This seemed like the natural next progression to work towards. Governor Patrick last session filed it, I believe it was House 59, and met with some resistance, but at come the end of the legislative session, it had zero momentum. This legislative session, there hasn't been a tremendous amount of momentum on it, but it doesn't mean it's not important. I have not heard discussions from budget writers about it to my colleagues, but
I can just confirm what Representative Arciero says. There seems to be, at the moment, little energy behind the issue. It has to do probably with the fact that Governor Patrick tried, and that met with significant resistance. Governor Baker hasn't shown so far an interest in immediately taking it back up. I think he feels he has his hand full with the MBTA and with these non-tax revenue-driven deficits in the state budget. So we don't hear a lot of commentary from the executive branch, and it doesn't necessarily speak well of us that neither the House nor the Senate isn't moving ahead of the governor on this issue. I think we are waiting for the executive branch to put this back on the table, and perhaps we should be moving on our own, but typically this has been, we've looked to the executive branch to frame a series of reforms. For example, Paul, you just suggested a major one potentially, right? Which is that we grandfather current public employee retirees and imagine that the municipalities would do so as well, but that we make as an explicit condition for new people coming on to the municipal or the state payroll that these kinds of generous benefits just aren't going to be a part of the total compensation package. It would be good if we could give fair notice to people in advance so that they knew that coming in, and eventually that would save Chelmsford and other towns and cities a lot of money. I think that that's going to happen, but we're just observing that in all the issues that have bubbled up, especially with our problems with mass transportation involving the regional transportation authorities, OPEB for the moment has been pushed back in the queue.
Right.
I think the governor has limited bandwidth,
Good.
and I don't think this makes it yet.
So how does the state handle their part of OPEB?
We are in serious trouble. We face exactly the same problem you do.
Are you appropriating money and putting it away?
We are, but not to the degree that we've addressed pensions. So we do put aside. I think we contributed something like $300 million in a $36 billion state budget for this current year. That's not enough either, but we are starting to do what you're doing. We're trying to put aside money belatedly.
Because it's kind of an unfair playing field because Chelmsford is dealing with this issue head-on, yet other towns, and some pretty well-to-do towns too, aren't doing a thing.
Well, and that's one of the things that I've been watching with a careful eye, because my towns manage their finances well. And one of the things that they're always talking to me about, and Paul's always talking to me about, is to make sure you don't get punished for planning well.
Right.
Now, there
Exactly.
are more municipal employees than there are state employees. And municipal employees, ironically, get paid more than state employees. So the pension, the OPEB bite is going to be bigger on the municipal side than it will be in the state. But the state, I think we had this forum last spring, are looking for the state to help bail them out. That's not a possibility. That's not even in discussion. We're not meeting our own obligations at the moment. And so what we need to do, if we don't do anything else, we should give the municipalities the authority to do what they need to do.
Right. I mean, I really appreciate that. And I just think OPEB is one of those things you can do to really relieve a burden off us without increasing any taxes.
Right.
I mean, if you did the OPEB reform, even at the last bill, it would provide us more relief than any tax increase that's really been considered in recent history, and you wouldn't have to increase taxes at all. So it could be a really, really large benefit, and I completely agree with the idea of giving ample notice and grandfathering current employees, and I think the last bill did that, and I think we just hope that you'll be part of that momentum. It may not be on the table yet, and maybe it's not next month, but sooner rather than later, every year that goes by.
Let me just make an observation, because I wouldn't want those listening to assume that somehow the legislature had punted when it had an easy solution in front of it. The difficulty with the bill that was written and was before the House and the Senate was that it created what we call cliff effects, right? If you had a significant amount of time in state employee, let's say you had 15 years in, and at the 20th year you could hope to have a pension if you were old enough to retire at 50% of your salary. The amount of benefit, the amount of health care coverage in retirement that you lost, even with 15 years in, if you didn't have 16 years in, was dramatic.
Yeah.
So the way we structured it, the way it was drafted, there was no smooth transition where the more years you had, the less of a penalty, so that you got more or less what you felt you had been promised. Instead, there were dramatic shifts in eligibility. That problem with the fairness is what killed the bill. It wasn't that it wasn't very carefully scrutinized. This time around, when we go back into this with Governor Baker, we have to figure out how to avoid very sharp transition points where some people wind up winners, keeping most of the benefit they expected, and others lose a significant amount of coverage. And similarly, when we help you structure yours, if in fact we're going to affect people who took these jobs in the expectation that they would have health insurance in retirement, if we're going to affect current retirees and not just new hires, and we may have to because of the financial implications, we have to figure out how to soften the kinds of very sharp and jagged impacts that the last bill threatened people with.
Sure. I couldn't agree more. Thank you. I know it's getting late. It's almost 8 o'clock now. Do any board members or our legislative delegation have any more final comments? Just thank you again so much for coming. And
Thank you,
yes,
Mr.
for-
Chairman.
I have one final comment. I tried to meet with representatives of local officials periodically throughout the year. Your town manager is at every single meeting and has given me the heads up on major issues far before any other local official, and I can't thank you enough.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much, Corey. Much appreciated. And thank you again. We hope to have you back soon. Tommy, you want to talk about solar real quick? Just kidding. Night. Night, Tommy. Right, next on the agenda, we have a public hearing regarding an all-alcohol package store license, Vinyl Square Holdings LLC, 11 Vinyl Square. I'll be recusing myself from the public hearing due to a prior business relationship with one of the applicants, and Selectman Joyce will be opening and continuing the public hearing.
Thank you, Matt. Last we met, we had lots of comments and lots of questions. What I'd like to do tonight, the public hearing is still open. What I'd like to ask people is if you have something new to offer, we'd like to have you come up and, tell us about it. And this goes for both sides of the coin. If it's just the same old, then we heard it last time and let's save some time. But if there's new comments by new people, the public hearing is open. And if you wish to speak first.
I think that makes perfect sense, Selectman Joyce, to hear from the public rather than me speak twice, speak now,
Right.
we hear from the public.
Right.
Then maybe I need to respond and speak again. In the interest of time,
Right.
I think that's a good suggestion of yours.
Thank
So
you.
I'll sit down.
So if there's anybody in the public that would like to speak, please come up to the podium, give us your name and address, and that's it.
Hello, I'm Susan Gates. I live at 7 Trotting Road in Chelmsford. And I wasn't at the previous meeting, so I don't know if you've heard this before, but since this is kind of a character reference, I think it's important for you to hear this. I know what it's like to be in your position and have to deal with people coming up and saying why there should or shouldn't be a liquor license. There are 32,000 people roughly in our community, and I guess if we asked every single one of them, they'd all have some opinion about what should go, for example, at the site. There should be a bakery, there should be a hairdresser, there should be a dress shop, there should be, you name it. Everyone has an opinion about the site. But as I understand it, it's a retail site. So in whatever business goes in there, there's going to be traffic associated with it, just as there was before when it was a market. This isn't an additional license to the community, so that's not particularly an issue. And I will say for the record that when I was a selectman, there was discussion about grocery stores being able to have sell alcohol, and I was opposed to that, and I still am opposed to that. I believe that the sale of alcohol requires someone on site who that's their business, that's what the people who work there are focused on that, rather than in a grocery store situation. So I'm not somebody that just says, let's hand out liquor licenses to everybody. So since traffic's not an issue and it was a business, and so there's, that's still going to be a commercial enterprise there, I look at it and I say, well, if this wasn't allowed, then what would go there? It would be empty and deteriorating. So for the good of the commercial part of Chelmsford, that area, I think this is a good thing. But I would like to speak really about Joe Reddy and Kenny Pantuzzo. I've known Joe since I could call him Joey. So that's 28 years. And I've followed him, his family, and seen him go through scouts, through college, and marriage, and start his business here. I totally respect him and trust him in regard to running a business like this. And as far as Kenny Pantuzzo is concerned, I've only known him for a few years, but I've known his wife and her family for almost 2 decades, and I've followed the engagement of Kenny to his wife Lisa, and seen them start their family with 2 beautiful children. And he has worked very, very hard in his job with, I don't know whether, can I say who you worked for before, with Smoky Bones. And I've seen him work long, long hours and have great responsibility in regard to beverage control and service of alcohol. So I fully support him and his character, and Joey also, Joseph. Joseph. And I hope that you will look at this and see that it is a good thing for the community, that the most important thing to me in issuing a liquor license is looking at who is going to be responsible for that, and are they dedicated to our town and respect our town. And both of these gentlemen live here in our community, have their families here, and want to put a significant amount of money into running what I see as being kind of a boutique alcohol business. And I hope you will consider approving this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Martell. I live at 287 Wellman Ave in North Chelmsford. I came to this meeting because I wanted to express my excitement for the potential to have a new business in Vinyl Square. I drive through Vinyl Square every time I leave my house, and to see it open an empty storefront makes me kind of upset. I would love to have a craft beer and liquor store go in where the Taza Market was. I think filling the empty space would be good for the town, the neighborhood, and also the surrounding businesses. I currently own a business in Westford, and there is a craft beer store next to me. The space that it went into was empty for about 8 years, and I would constantly hear about how the plaza was empty, or people didn't even know what was in the plaza or where it was. When the craft beer store came in, there was so much more foot traffic to the plaza and also to my business. I also have a lot of customers that come from the craft beer store saying that they didn't even know that there was a hair salon in the plaza, and my clients love hearing that there's a craft beer store right down the walkway. I'm constantly hearing how great it is to have something like that in town, and I'm thankful that two businesses can benefit from each other. I've been reading the concerns about the liquor store going into Vinyl Square, things like intoxicated people driving through Vinyl Square and big delivery trucks getting in the way. I can tell you that having a restaurant on one side of my business and a craft beer store on the other, I've been there for 7 years and I haven't seen any instance involving these concerns. I actually can't even tell you when the craft beer store gets their deliveries, and I'm there over 40 hours a week. So I think Vinyl Square would be, it would be benefited from a new business, especially one that is popular as craft beer. Thank you for letting me take the time and opportunity to express my opinions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, John Goffin, 19 Cathy Road, Chelmsford, Mass. You all know my relationship with the Reddys that have been here in town for a long time. I think that one thing with this particular project is that you have a long-term family, you have long-term commitment, you have people coming in to the store that are going to spend their dollars in this town. They're not going to go up Route 4 to Tingsboro, they're not going to go up Route 4 to New Hampshire. They might not be millions of dollars, but it's going to be revenue coming into Chelmsford. Now, we listened to our reps here saying how much of a budget shortfall that we're at. These are dollars that are coming here. I think it's a great idea. After that, I just think it's a very positive point to get that license taken care of, having the family in town. That's, really a long-term commitment. And that store will generate dollars not only for Vinyl Square, they'll participate in the activities just like they've participated in activities all over town. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Wallach, 9 Whippletree Road. What I'd like to present is a framework based on my work with the Economic Development Committee and looking at some business trends. I'm going to focus on 3 facts. One is the traffic, the demand, and then the brand development potential. When we take a look at the traffic, we shouldn't try and legislate traffic through this mechanism because you have a vacant lot and there is any number of businesses that can enter into that vacant retail space where the Board of Selectmen has absolutely no control or even knowledge of them coming in. This is something that needs to be taken up with the Vinyl Redevelopment Commission, whereas a second successful business, the third successful business, and so on come in, they need to have a plan going forward. To stop this first business from coming in really does really nothing to do it. It's a small volume business. If you take a look at it in comparison to something like a bakery, where you have small purchase ticket items requiring a high volume of customer traffic in order for them to make it a successful business. This is in contrast to a fairly high purchase ticket per customer type of environment. Therefore, the need, in order to be successful, the volume of customers needed to make a go of it is much smaller. The second part is demand. From my understanding is we have 2 zip codes in this town. The 01824 and 01863. In 01824, 6 of the licenses exist in that zip code. In 01863, there are 0 licenses. And 0863 represents 25% of the population. So from a geographic standpoint, there is a demand for this type of business. One of the concerns that I had heard was, can that business coexist with existing businesses? If we take a look at where we have existing liquor store establishments within visual sight lines, you have an after-school learning center in one specific case. In another, you have a woman and a female fitness center. You have a diner. You have businesses that currently coexist. And in the third case, you have a high-volume convenience store that brings in people of all ages. Those businesses, for the most part, have moved in after the liquor store has been long-term established. So they've been able to coexist in that particular environment. The final point is one from a brand development perspective. If we take a look at the craft business, it is one of the highest growing cottage industries in this region. They're experiencing double-digit year-over-year growth. This is unlike any other kind of business that may be mature, declining, or, well, what do I have here? Mature, saturated, mature, declining business. What we have an opportunity is to have a high growth type of industry being located in the Vinyl Square area in a well-established commercial zone. The other potential we have for this is the type of clients that this type of environment will bring. They're going to be higher income individuals, aficionados, if you will, coming to taste these fairly expensive craft concoctions. So this, we have a potential to have an anchor store in the Vinyl Square redevelopment, a high-value business coming in, bringing in that type of clientele. And if we go back to the whole retail experience, whether it's a mall or any other development, what the developers look for is an anchor type of environment, an anchor store. This one has that potential to serve as that one type of store, high value, a different type of clientele, and could be the linchpin to bringing in other businesses of that same ilk into this development. That's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Good evening. My name is Eric Salerno from 6 Loisel Lane, also from North Chelmsford. I'm not sure. Mike mentioned that we live pretty close to each other. I'm not sure if he's got me beat, but I live about a little bit less than 1.75 miles from the location of the proposed business. When I found out that there was so much conflict or discussion about whether or not to approve the purpose of the building, I was more than happy to accept the invitation to come down and speak about it. Although the type of business is of, I firmly believe that businesses and the business owners that choose to invest in the revitalization of Vinyl Square will have significantly more incentive to make improvements to the neighborhood, such as parking or traffic. So the concerns that have been raised about parking and traffic, even the uses of the buildings in that area, I think the more responsible business owners that we have in that particular location, the more resources the town is going to have to rely on in order to support development and changes. So if there's a parking problem, I don't think solving that problem before the business goes in is the right order of things. I think it's finding people who are willing to invest their time and, more specifically, their effort and their finances into the revitalization of that area, because it's going to be in their best interest to help solve that problem. Although the type of business is of less consequence to me, I'm only interested in making sure that businesses that would improve the function, utility, and the aesthetics of Vinyl Square get put into place. As people have mentioned previously, the location is a retail zone, and I think that should be something that's a priority. The fact that we have an opportunity to put in a retail location is only going to help the other retail locations that are already in existence, as mentioned by the salon owner from Westford. I actually have been inside the craft beer store that is near the Salon 142, and I'd like to mention that one of the things that makes it a great space and a great business is the fact that they're invested in making relationships with their customers. And anybody that knows Joe Reddy, he's the type of individual that wants to facilitate relationships with the people in his community. The fact that we have two individuals from our own community who are going to be putting up their finances and efforts into the revitalization of a business center so close to my home inspires me about the fact that I live in this town. Also, having somebody that's has an understanding of the civic process, I think, is also going to help the town when there are issues or things that come up related to running the Vinyl Square area. We can rely on people that have a direct connection to the foot traffic and the specific issues associated with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi. Jocelyn Schuler, 40 Burica Road. I'm not very well educated on this topic. Most of you who know me, usually I do educate myself much better. As far as the parking issue, I have grandchildren who live up the street. I came to a full meeting here. There are 3 cars parked out on Burica Road. There's plenty of parking. Whenever there's a full meeting here, there is. There are people who will park out on Burica Road, no matter what, okay? So you still have a parking situation. I am curious, I don't know how many liquor licenses are in town, but how many liquor licenses are there that there is no parking? Westland's Package Store is the only one that I can count within the area. I don't drink, so I don't know where any package stores really are. That doesn't have parking. And I am concerned about when they will load and when they will unload and restock the store. Harrington's, I don't hear them now anymore. The building is there and everything. But when I had younger kids at 3 in the morning, I could hear them locking, loading and unloading. So, unless it was Stop and Shop. It could have been Stop and Shop. But I could hear trucks and I could hear loading and unloading. Sorry. But you know what I mean? You could hear loading. So in that area that it is in, how and where are they going to unload? I'm sure they have a plan, but I'd like to know what that plan is, and that's basically where I come from.
Thank you, Joseph. Anybody else?
Yes, I would like to say something. I'm Joan Iden, and I live at 34 Middlesex Street on the corner of Kennedy Drive near the post office. I'm very familiar with that particular Tazo market, how it failed. That corner is notorious. There is no way that possibly one car might be able to pull up in front of it, if they're lucky. It's terrible. Now, if I could make a suggestion, how about the restaurant across the street that just closed? Look at all the parking down there that could be implemented for the liquor store. It doesn't make any sense to be put there. Another thing is most times, and I don't know if this craft beer is going to have lottery, all right, down the road or whatever, but lotteries, every time that there's a liquor store with lotteries, what do you see outside?
Lottery tickets.
Oh, I lost, okay? No, nobody picks it up. It becomes just a trash haven. An example is in Lowell, one particular spot on Broadway, and Broadway and School Street. Liquor store, all these tickets, cans, papers. Nobody gives them gives it a care about it. I would like to see it. I agree upon liquor store in North Chelmsford. The other one, I guess it was just a beer and wine. It didn't succeed. But I do not, and I think a lot of people in the Vinyl Square area feel it's not a good spot. And there's nothing more to say. All you have to do is go down there. Try to find a parking place. And about the loading and unloading, hello? It's a one-way street. And who's going to be affected? The people up in that lovely, lovely neighborhood behind it. That is where the Varney field is, which is being renovated, which I am so glad about. But it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. And I really hope that you will consider that. Seriously take a ride by there. Walk by there. See if you can find a parking place. Plain and simple. And you say, well, why do we have to put a parking place then before you put in a liquor store? That's why. In this particular area, no good. Just no good. So, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
I'm really serious. I love the idea of the liquor store, I really do, but not a good spot.
Anyone else in the public wish to speak?
Hi, Karen Bevis, 175 Willis Drive. I own 2 Groton Road, which is right next door. And I just have a comment for the people that weren't here 2 weeks ago. We were not against a liquor store in Vinyl Square. It's the proposed spot. That's what we have. That's what's alarming to us. I can't stress that enough. So they missed out, whether they heard it on TV or whatever. They missed what we were trying to get our point across. And I just have to reiterate, yeah, business boom, but I will have to sell my business. I know that for sure, because what's in my building is not going to stay there if there's a package store next door. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
2 Groton Road, I own the building. You gotta go up the mic. I own 2 Groton Road. It's a commercial building with 4 units. I have a hairdresser, Salem 5, an auto school, and a new wig. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, me. After him, go ahead. Thank you. My name's Edward Ford. I live at 16 Adams Street, so one of the closest abutters to the potential liquor store. And my wife was going to come here and speak, and I appreciate that you guys are doing this again after the vacation because we're one of the folks that would have missed it. She wrote up this great letter. I'm going to spare you guys because it sounds like, she's watching right now, so it is a really good, well-written letter. But I think you probably did hear a lot of the points already. But living that closely to this spot, for me, it's pretty sad seeing this thing. We bought the house a few years back. First house we've ever purchased. We were in the military, both of us, for 6 and 7 years, respectively. And that thing's been closed since we bought it, that spot, the market. It's an eyesore. I definitely agree. And we need something there. The problem is what I have. Now, I love the spot that we bought in. The neighborhood's great. Everybody comes there for Halloween, wandering around, all the kids. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. Everyone I've spoken to, nobody in my neighborhood wants that liquor store there. Full disclosure, I think we've spoken to one person so far. And those, I haven't gone door to door. It's just, who we've talked to at the bus stop, dropping the kids off and whatnot. My concerns are, the parking thing is a big one because if you drive by there, think about, I'm going to stop and grab myself, a 6-pack or whatever. The easiest place for you to park your car is on Adams Street. Doesn't matter. I mean, there's a parking lot down near Rosie's. I think that might be a private lot. I'm not sure if they're able to use that or not. There's another private lot across the street if you want to play Frogger trying to get to this place. But really, I'm going to park my car on Adams Street and run in there. We have the doctor's office there, and actually I like living next to them. They're quiet, Monday through Saturday. The only thing I ever have a problem with is they come and pick up the trash at 4:30 I've seen in the morning. It's loud. They're right next door. I don't know when the market was open till, because it was gone when I got here. But this place is going to be open till 11 o'clock. And there are going to be cars driving up and down. There are outlets off of Adams Street to get to wherever you want in Chelmsford and avoid Vinyl Square. So they're going to be running past my house, until at least 11 o'clock. So, those are my concerns. I have others. I'm sure you've heard them all before, but I just wanted to give my part of it there. Thank you.
Next person?
Hi, my name is John Lito. I own Village Variety in North Chelmsford. I've had it for 10 years. I've had the pleasure of working in Vinyl Square, not just Chelmsford, for 40 years of my life. I ran an auto parts store at the other end of the square for 30 years. And whoever said it does not going to affect the other business dramatically. I have a very small volume store. The rate of people are poor in North Chelmsford. They really are. And I'm fortunate enough they allow me to earn an income. You'll never see scratch tickets in my gutter. I walk constantly cleaning that place. It's as nice as I can make it. And I put it together because I lost my job. I had to make one. I thought I did a pretty good job. Matter of fact, Mr. Cohen, I've been through your town. That little French store up there, that's what I tried to make it like. And my business card says where everybody knows your name. And they do. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
It definitely caused me to close my store.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, then, Philip, if you want to, sir, you want to speak?
I do.
May I set, there's a tripod in this room, may I get that? Speak the last time.
I think there's isn't there a nicer one, Paul, that's...
Should be at 5 feet.
Try that.
Try the metal one.
Try this other one?
Oh, it was the first night. That was his wife who said they would lose this. That's bullshit. Salmon fibers.
There you go.
We're all see. My name's Gary Bevis, and I currently reside at 175 Willis Drive, North Chelmsford. And along with my wife, I own 2 Groton Road in North Chelmsford. I'm going to just rebut some of the things that were said 2 weeks ago. If I could, I'm just going to touch on them. But before I get started, I happen to pay attention. I said 2 weeks ago, I listen to what people say, and I paid attention to all the addresses that the people said when they come up and spoke in favor. I don't think there was one within... nobody in that neighborhood, that's for sure. None. Nobody come up and spoke in favor that actually live and will be affected by this particular liquor store in that neighborhood. So one guy said he was 1 3/4 miles away. Geez, that could be past the Tingsboro Bridge for all I know. But anyway, one lady got up and said she was very upset to see an empty store. How can you be upset to see an empty store? I'm not upset, and I've been looking at it for, I can't tell you how long, and I'm right next door, 42 feet away. I'm not upset. But anyway, one guy said, it's going to bring in new business, some kind of a aficionado thing. Where's the business going to go? I'm going to put up a map here that shows you that every place is full, except for this one particular store. I don't want to get into why it's full. He can change his routine if he wants to, and he can get somebody in there if he chooses. It doesn't have to be a liquor store, but I'm going to start by putting up a graph, if I may, so I can make my point a little bit better. This is Vinyl Square. I'm going to have to pull it out. Hope you all can see it. I'm going to touch on a few things.
Speak into the mic.
You know,
Nobody's
they
gonna
keep
hear.
saying retail. They keep saying.
Excuse me, sir, you need to speak into the microphone.
I know, I'm
People at
sorry, but
home-
I want to stay close to my, so I can.
Pull the
point
easel
out.
over towards you then, because people at home will get upset that they can't hear you.
I got you. Thank you. I've heard retail. It doesn't have to be retail. This place can be many things. It could be a chiropractor's office, a dentist, a lawyer's. I told you, I'd love to have Mr. Eliopoulos there. Love to. Love to. It could be an accountant. There can be it's so many things, but it doesn't have to be retail. It can be something else. I just want to bring your attention to my map here. Last week, 2 weeks ago, he said there were no bus stops at that location. Well, he's kind of correct. I know he's getting paid to swing everything in his favor, but there are bus stops very close by. One right here is 92 feet away. That's 92 feet across the street. The other one here is 97 feet across the street. The other one right here is about 125 feet. I measured that with one of those little walkers that, almost got killed too. But but I did it anyway. So there is a bus stop, 3 of them, and they're very close by. He states, that this is a place where people are going to go and get, some wine or champagne or whatever. Look, let's not fool around here. This is a place where people are going to run in, get nips, get pints, get fifths. Yeah, they're going to get some beer, and they might even get some of that fancy, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, craft beer stuff. But it's no different. I believe I grabbed the wrong bag. Can I have the other bag, please? But in any event, as I stated, I brought a big bag of trash up here 2 weeks ago. I'm not going to do that this week. That's still in my car. But I'll tell you what I did do. I went back, because, this has really been bothering me, because I live in that neighborhood. I've been there all my life, just like most of these folks. Everyone up here that said they were for this thing, none of them live there. So I went back, and now you can see the snow on the ground. This is the snow 2 days later. And what do I see? This is the whole bag he throws out now. This is the people that I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of the person who drinks responsibly. This is an irresponsible drinker. He didn't go home and drink this at home and throw it in a bag and bring it to Varney Park and throw it on the ground. He's drinking in his car. What's he drinking? It's right there. It's craft beer. It's craft beer. And it's a wine bottle in there with the cork on it. The same cork, wine, champagne. Because I'm going to tell you, folks, just like he says, I didn't get a bottle for the holidays. Neither did my wife or anybody in my family. But people do get bottles of wine and champagne for the holidays. I get that. But so does the irresponsible drinker. He buys at that same place. Make no bones about it. That's exactly where he gets it. All right, the bus stop. All right, we already touched on that. This is a gin, vodka, whiskey, rum. This is a packy. This is not, by any stretch of the imagination, Harrington's Liquors. This place is not going to have a shopping cart. All right, let's just keep it real and say it for what it really is. 2 weeks ago when we were here, all these people that were in favor, I told you, I listened. Of course, I watched it 4 or 5 times, too. But, the petitioner lives at 16 Middlesex Street. The other guy that spoke in favor, he lives at 18. Dr. Crane, he lives at 20. I don't know. You tell me. Nobody in my neighborhood, I didn't bring them here to come here and speak against this thing. I didn't ask them to, because it wouldn't be right. I only asked the people that actually live in that neighborhood to sign a petition. I'm going to get to that in a minute, too. We're trying to protect this neighborhood. Like she said, this is the most densely single-family populated neighborhood that I think in Chelmsford. I'm not talking about Wellman. That's not really a single-family neighborhood. This neighborhood it's been there for such a long time. It's incredible. The guy's right. You go up there at Halloween, everybody's involved and gets into it. We're trying to protect that street. Here are the signs. Keep out during certain hours. Why? Because there is a ton of children up there. I told you 2 weeks ago, we walk up there, what do I see? I see people pushing, kids in baby carriages and walking their dogs. She said, Bernie Cost said, I saw her walking her dog. That's how she signed my petition. That's how it works up there. The neighborhood is fantastic. You don't think it's dangerous? Look at this car. I'm going to show you 2 pictures. I took this one at 6 o'clock, coming down the wrong way. He parks his car. He could care less. 3 hours later, he's still there. Now it's nighttime. Nobody does anything about it. Nobody cares. I care. I told you 2 weeks ago, this is my town. I love this town. I'll die here, I know that. Now, we're going to talk about parking. Look, let's face it. I got another one here. I'm going to bring it out. Sorry. This will give you, I know it's unprofessional, but it's the best I've got. This is basically the parking situation, if you can't see it. I've done the best to mark out the spots. Here's his location right here. He has realistically, not this felonious 42 stuff, three spots. Four. I'm sorry, three, right alongside his store. Like the gentleman said, anybody coming to buy liquor at that store, that's where they want to go. And what do? He parks on that one-way street, and he has no choice but to go right up into that densely populated neighborhood with all those people. Look, I've said it, I'm going to say it and say it and say it. I'm not talking about the responsible guy, I'm talking about the if you don't think there are irresponsible ones out there, all you need to do is go to the AA meeting on Tuesday night on Shaw Street. 112 people there last week, and they tell me for everyone that's in there's 100 out here. Scares me enough. Anyway, I'm just going to brush over. They say that, Rosie's, I'm going to tell you right now, I already did my research on that. Here's the sign. It says right on it, I'll read it. Parking for Village Grooming, Tiffany's Nail, Kristen's, and Rosie's Diner only. All others will be towed. That is a privately owned lot. I'm going to go as far a little bit more to say something about that if I may. That lot, Rosie and all those other businesses, they lease. They pay the owner of this lot for that. I'm not going to use it. It's just that simple. As a matter of fact, Kristen, the lady at Kristen's told me that they're going to hire somebody to stand out there, right here, to make sure that nobody else uses that. They ain't going to use it, I can tell you that. Also, this other lot that's across the street. Now, let me just play this out for you. Guy gets in there, he pulls way in there. First two are handicapped. These two, you'll mostly the people that work, the cleaners, anybody else takes those. He's now way back in here. He's got to get out, walk 50 feet, take a right, walk another 50, 60, 70 feet, push a button, wait for the traffic to stop at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when traffic is already backed up to the fire station and down to the Chinese restaurant. And now he's got to wait, and all the traffic stops. He crosses the street. He walks another 140 feet into the liquor store, gets his fifth or whatever he's going to do. He's going to come back out, press that button, wait for traffic. Come on, really? That's not going to happen. We all know that. This is just common sense. There isn't, in my spaces, I got 9 spaces. Here's another thing. He says he's going to bring, that guy gets up, he says, we're going to bring new business to the area. Where are they going to go? We're all full. The only empty building is that one. We don't need new business in town. We're doing quite well. Vinyl Square is doing great. We don't need anybody else in town. We certainly don't need a liquor store. We don't want it, and we don't need it. Going to continue on.
Okay, how much more do you have? Because I'd like to get other people up,
Well,
and we're not here.
I know. I feel like you're going to rush me, but a lot of these points are important. I got to tell you, I mean, if I skip over and miss one thing, I'm going to get home tonight and say, why didn't I get that out? I'd rather postpone it rather than,
Okay.
I don't want to, though.
Okay. Just see if
I'll tell you what, let me go on for another 5 or 10 minutes and see where I'm at. And then,
why don't we do 5?
well, I'm sorry if you have someplace to go tonight. You're welcome to go there. But this is important to me, just as it is to you
Okay,
guys.
please don't address the crowd.
Well,
why don't we give you a limit of 5 more minutes because you've been speaking about.
All right, let's see where I go in the next 5 minutes.
At this
I have a
point.
driving school. He's here tonight, right? 42 feet away.
Mm-hmm.
These are young, impressionable 14, 15, and 16-year-old people going to the driving school. 42 feet away, there's a liquor store. Does that sound right to anybody? I can't think of a worse place. Now, this is a school. I'm telling you it's a school. I have the paperwork right in here. Now, there's a definition of a school. They're all in here, all the definitions. It is a school. It might not be a public school, but I know what a school is. And even in the definition in the dictionary, it says a driving school is a school. I'm just telling you that. Oh, by the way, I don't think anybody knows it. Bring out my other map here. I'm sorry. Oh, it's on the one back there. There is a church. That church is within 300 feet of this liquor store. It is a certified church. It is licensed. It has a state, and it's all in here. But I'm not going to have the time to bring it out because y'all don't want me to. But it's all here. Here's all this information. Anybody who wants it. It is a church. I went there Friday night and saw the most moving sermon I ever seen in my life. It is there. I'm not saying that you can't put your liquor store there. Now a letter's going to the state to say that it's not detrimental. I asked the pastor, I said, is it detrimental? He said, yes, it is. I can't park on Sundays as it is. He's going to have an open package store over there. He signed my petition. I'm going to move on. I'm going to skip a lot of stuff, and it's too bad. But I'm going to get right to the big stuff here. You know, I can't tell you how many times I read it in the paper. I'm just going to bring it up. Just one second. I'm just going to read one thing. Because you know what? When I keep hearing something about somebody, it kind of gets me a little bit. Right in here, 2 drunk driving. Right? Here's another one. I got another one right in here. I'm not going to get to it. Guy got hit by a drunk driver. Right up. 500 feet away. 500 feet away 2 years ago. Hit 2 kids. Why? Because it's a neighborhood where the kid was in a carriage. And the guy's walking. I'm not going to tell you who he is. It's all in there if you want to see it afterwards. But I'm here in the paper. What does it say in the paper? 2 things. Their professional reputations and good names. God damn, if I hear that one more time, I think I'll snap. But anyway, here it says right here, it says, the owners must understand the granting of an alcohol license is a great more than permission to sell alcohol. It is a genuine supreme trust. I couldn't agree with them more. Okay, I didn't agree with the article. But now I'm going to get into one more thing. I saw this, you know, I started pulling up the
Cut it down.
petitioner. Can't even, he's going to put new windows in and revitalize the whole square. I got that. Here's the drunk driving arrest. I'm not going to say who it was. But as we're moving on, I start looking over this guy's petition. One thing struck me. I told you I'd pay attention. It's a passport. So I said to myself, I called up my brother's wife and I said, Sue, you've been a law officer for 28 years. How many people that you ever pulled over showed you a passport as means of identification? You know what she told me? None. I said, damn. Okay, this is not passing the smell test. So I start doing a little bit more investigating, and I start looking at his application. It has a big box here for all information. And what does it say? Present bar manager, Regional Smoky Bones in Peabody, Massachusetts. 2010 till present. He hasn't been here for 6 years. I know that for a fact. I actually have my brother's, I'm not going to say who he is, worked right alongside Mr. Pantuso just a year and 8 months ago, down in Clearwater, Florida. What a small world it is. What a small world it is. He hasn't been here for 6 years. As a matter of fact, I did a little more investigation. He doesn't even have a Massachusetts state license. As a matter of fact, here's his Facebook page. Says he's been here, says move to Chelmsford, May 1st, 2014. Why is he trying to make us think he's been here for 6 years? He doesn't even come close to passing my smell test.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I mean, people come in to
gotcha.
town and open businesses that have never been in town. So
I got you.
know.
Doesn't matter. All right.
You all set?
No.
Oh.
This is his mugshot. Okay? This is his mugshot. He was arrested. All right? He was arrested, and I'm going to tell you what it's for. It says here, right here.
He was not convicted, so why don't we just...
Oh, you know that already?
we know,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know if he was convicted.
We do our homework.
Well,
We had the police department.
We've looked into it.
cleared
Don't worry about it.
Okay, well, he's
No
been
sense
driving without a
making-
license. I kind of wonder how he lost his license.
Innocent till
We
proven
wonder a lot of
guilty.
things, but we don't
I
ask
don't know
people.
that, sir. I don't know that.
Okay. We don't want to
I
get
gotcha.
into a,
I
you know,
gotcha. I'm getting pushed off the
a
stand.
match.
I get it.
You know,
I get
we
it.
don't want to get into a mudslinging match
No,
here.
no,
so
no, no.
let's-
You know what?
Let's keep
I'll
it
be
to the
honest with you.
facts.
This isn't even about him.
All right.
It
Well,
really isn't.
Then don't bring it up. Then
Well, you have to.
okay.
You have to.
All right. Anything else?
This is the supreme
substantial.
trust. The
Anything
bottom
else
line here, and
substantial?
George Merrill said it perfectly 2 weeks ago. He said, I can't even see now. I'm rushing so much. I want to go back to my book to see what he said. He said, no good can come from selling intoxicating beverages in Vinyl Square. I'll even go far as to tell you he couldn't be more right. No good can come of selling intoxicating beverages in that neighborhood where all the traffic is a one-way going into that densely populated neighborhood where there's a park, a children's playground, a beach. There was sledding there the other day during the winter. I mean, it's full of kids. It's just an accident waiting to happen. It's wrong.
Okay.
It takes courage to... I got you.
I've given you the 5 minutes.
I know, you gave me more.
So we gotta move on.
I got you.
Other people want to speak.
I got it.
Is there anybody else?
Yes. Sir, do you have a petition that you want
I
to
do.
bring up?
I'm getting thrown out. I have
No,
a petition of...
I mean,
I have
because
a
you're
petition.
also representing
Every
other
one of
people,
those,
and I'd
every
like
one
to-
of these orange dots is a business in Vinyl Square. It's probably 80% of, maybe even more.
Right.
They're all against, everyone. Nobody in Vinyl Square, nobody in that neighborhood is for this petition. I mean, I don't know where, the survey, the Phantom Survey, no one even heard about it, let alone took it. Every one of these is a name. Every one of these is a business. And every one of these has signed my petition, of which I'd like to pass to you tonight. And every one of them is against it. Not just a little bit, by a lot. My petition, I'd like to give it to you, if I may.
Thank you. Can I move on to the next gentleman? Do you mind?
Get his petition.
Mr. Beavis? Do you mind if I move on? Okay. Sir?
My name's Leo Forcier. I live at 34 Middlesex Street in Chelmsford. That's just a block and a half away. I manage the property 1 through 13 Groton Road, which is right across the street from Mr. Bevis's property. It's a residential area. The parking is along the street and in front of the building. This package store will definitely affect my parking and the tenants' parking there, because that is a closest spot they're going to park when there's no parking on the corner. Now, you've got a location there that a 5-way intersection off of 2 forks. It's highly treacherous, and especially going from Groton Road into Vinyl Square, you really can't see people on Adams Street in that area. Anybody stopping to go in, it ends up, it's a potential wicked accident location, because people are going through around the corner, can't see well. People stopping would be going in the package store, turning to go down the street, coming out of the street. It's going to be treacherous. You can't really see well there. People are in traffic, trying to go through that intersection. It's going to be just horrible traffic-wise. And I'm not against business. I'm for business. I'm for a package store, but not there. It's a terrible location. There is really no land there. The building takes up every bit of the land. There ain't even a spot for a dumpster, I don't think, on the property. And you got a package store that develops 1 million boxes and papers and everything else, and won't even have a place to put a dumpster to throw them away. Love mine, the trucks unloading and everything else. I think it's a terrible location. I'm not against a liquor store, but I'm definitely against that location.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
The parking that you spoke of, that you're parking, is it
Yes.
on-street parking or is it a lot?
Basically, when they redid Vinyl Square, I worked with the engineer and what have you to provide some of my property to move curbings and what have you so they could park there. So it's half on my property, half on the street property, but basically that's the parking spot for the tenants and owners of those condo units, 8 condo units, and they park on both sides of the building.
Okay.
That's prime parking spots for these people in the liquor store. It'd be easy to park there, take those spots all day, so the residents won't have any parking spots.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, anyone else? I'd like to jump to, does the board wish to speak now, or should I have Philip come up and, Mr. Eliopoulos come up and? Yeah, why don't you come up, Mr. Eliopoulos?
Thank you. So I wanted to just talk, I think we heard probably similar concerns tonight, and also similar support. Looks like it's mixed, but I thought it would be helpful for me to address the areas of concern for the board, because obviously you don't need me to rehash the positives.
Right.
I think it's important that the board know that both Joe and Ken, after listening to the residents' concerns at the last meeting, really took them to heart and tried to investigate each one of them. One thing I think is important to note as well is that the town manager and the Board of Selectmen set up a Vinyl Square Master Plan Committee, which I think they set that up because they felt that there was needed improvements in Vinyl Square. I think all of us have heard from the businesses, even when I was on the Board of Selectmen. One of the things I constantly heard is, when are we going to pay attention to Vinyl Square? We always focus on Chelmsford Center. When are we going to look at vitalizing Vinyl Square? And I think the board and the town manager came forward to put together a committee to really study that, as well as Chelmsford Center. They put a separate committee for that. And this committee had extensive reach out to both the residential and the business community in Vinyl Square. You received an email from Bill Gillette, who was on that committee. He may have actually chaired the committee, had several SWOT analysis type public hearings with 55, 65, 75 plus people attending. And as part of that analysis, they looked and asked those people that came to listen and participate, what did they want there from new business? What did they feel would help revitalize Vinyl Square? And they came up with 4 main uses: a package store, a cafe or bakery, a ice cream store, and a pub/restaurant. Those 4 uses. All 4 of those uses are going to generate some traffic. All 4 of those uses are going to have parking needs. I would submit to the board that 3 out of those 4 uses are going to have much more traffic and parking needs than a liquor store. And we have some traffic analysis to support that. Cafe, quick sale, in and out, but a lot of volume. Restaurant, a lot of turnover, a lot of volume. Ice cream stand. You go to Sully's, go to Bates in Carlisle, and you'll see at Bates 50 cars there at a time. People ordering ice cream, sitting in their car, eating the ice cream. And so, what I think we're looking at is if you don't want to address anything that's going to increase parking and traffic, then we have to say as a town, no new business in Vinyl Square, because any business is going to generate traffic. I have a law firm. Someone suggested maybe a law firm go in there. When we have a closing, we have 2 buyers, we have 2 sellers, most of the time separate cars because they've got their car packed with stuff. We've got 2 real estate agents, we've got a lender, we've got a seller's attorney typically. So at minimum, you're looking at 8 people that spend an hour in my office. So they're taking a parking space for a full hour. This is not a quick 5-minute, I'm going to go in, buy a bottle of champagne for an event I'm going to, and I'm gone in 5 minutes. So, I think that's important to hear. When we look at traffic, it was important, probably the most important issue that came up. And to that end, to help try to alleviate some of the anxiety that some of the neighborhood was feeling, we commissioned a traffic study at the applicant's expense. And the applicant hired Howard Stein Hudson, their engineering firm that does a lot of work in town, to look at traffic. And I don't know, the traffic we actually received over the weekend, I know it was submitted to Paul, and I don't know if the board members actually got it in their packet. I have extra copies if need be. But what they found is that there are about 1,300 vehicles sort of going through Vinyl Square and during peak morning hours, and about 1,400 vehicles during peak evening hours. So that kind of gives you a flavor of the busiest traffic times. With respect to Adams Street, because there's a lot of discussion of Adams Street, as part of the traffic analysis, NIMCOG had actually looked at even Adams Street as part of their traffic study. Cars going down Adams Street through Vinyl Square. During peak hours, there's 25 cars per hour that are going through Adams Street. So that's the busiest time of day. They looked at this particular use, and they determined that this particular use would generate a total of 42 trips per hour during the peak time in the evening. Trips because peak morning time is 7 a.m. fair, and it's not appropriate. It meets the town's parking requirements. These businesses are served by off-street, on-street parking. And I think if we deny this application on parking, then this board has to deny anyone who comes forward seeking any type of license for a pub, an ice cream stand, a coffee shop, because they'll all need a common victuals license for this board. And how can you grant it? You have to deny any business going in there because they're going to increase parking needs. And I just don't see how that's going to, A, vitalize Vinyl Square, but B, take this, really what's a blighted property that's been vacant and ever breathe life into it, because no one's going to be able to come forward and put in a business there because they won't have any of the off-street parking that maybe would be preferred. And so, again, I think what we'd be doing is not just affecting this business, but really any of those businesses that I mentioned that want to locate anywhere in Vinyl Square. I would think we would have to deny them because they couldn't provide the parking necessary off-street to meet that business's needs. And to me, it doesn't seem right that this person's property, he's selling it to Joe Reddy. He's had it on the market forever. It's been a very challenge to find a buyer. He's finally found someone. You know, he's, for some reason that he should be, just because maybe he's the last guy to try to fill a space, he shouldn't be treated like everybody else who has businesses there. That just doesn't seem right to me. With regards to hours of operation, I think there were some concerns, and I think, you know, some, especially around Sundays, there was concerns raised about early mornings, people going, and later in the evening, and the applicants heard that. They've just decided to adjust the hours of operation. They're going to close an hour earlier Monday through Friday, so they'd close at 10, which I think is consistent with some of the businesses over there. With respect to Sunday, they would shorten the hours to noon to 6 instead of 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So they would shrink the hours during a few of the 4 of the weeknights and shorten them on Sundays. I think that makes sense for the business. I think it makes sense for the neighborhood, and I think it's consistent with most of the other package stores in town. So if it's okay, I do want to pass the new hours in, just so it's part of the application process, if I may.
You all set, Mr. Leopold?
Just about, yep, just wrapping up.
Okay.
With respect to need, I mean, I'll just address it quickly. Mike Kowalik had stole my thunder. I don't know where he got his research. It's the same as mine, but basically, this is the area that this package store would serve. And he is right. There are 6 current existing package stores in town. All of them are in 01824. You can kind of see them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This would be the only one in 01863. And he is also correct. By my research, 25% of the residents and businesses are actually in 01863. So you've got one package store that would serve a quarter of this town. You have 6 package stores that serves the other 3/4. So I think clearly there's a need from that perspective. With respect to the trash, how are you going to handle trash? You want to have respectable owners, whatever the business is going to be. And I don't think any of us think that Kenny and Joe are going to have a disrespectful business, are going to let their customers spread trash out the community. You want to go with a known entity if you're worried about trash. With regard to loading, same thing. They're going to make sure that they're loading during non-peak times. And no business is doing loading, you know, when their customers are trying to establish, you know, during their peak time. So they will be sensitive to that, make sure that they're following the rules. And really, I mean, besides the fact that there are people that don't want this business there, I just don't see any defendable reason why the board should deny a business like this from going into this retail location. I think that it meets all of the requirements and all of the tests that we go through when determining whether to locate a business in this business district. So I know it's been a long time, so I'll end there, and I'll leave it to board questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. Board have questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I'm familiar with Mr. Pantuso's experience.
Yes.
In the liquor business distribution, and I also understand Mr. Reddy's has retail experience. Now, is he tip certified, or is he planning on becoming, going through training? Can you just speak a little bit about that?
He actually has some experience with the liquor business that I wasn't aware of at our last meeting. So can I have him just quickly?
Yes, please.
Give that to the board.
Just so the board knows, I am TAM certified. I did take the course on selling retail alcohol, and I passed that. I also have experience working at a bar earlier in my career. I was a bouncer for several years and actually checked IDs at the door and was known as one of the toughest and probably most obnoxious people because, quite frankly, underage drinking is unacceptable, and I would never allow an establishment to be put at risk as a result of somebody coming in underage. So it's something I take very personally. I think Mr. Eliopoulos had talked about my past, in which I had been a local child enforcement officer, had the opportunity to actually go into several businesses and have them sell to me, and so I understand the challenges that go along with it. And I think from our perspective, we're looking to run the best operation possible, better than any other operation that's in Chelmsford, and we have some of the very finest. So, thank you.
Except Harrington's. Equal to Harrington's. The other thing that, Joe, if it's all right that I mention, is they're going to, and it's mainly because Joe is passionate about this, and Ken as well. He trains the staff at his restaurant on liquor sales. They're going to require any employee, which isn't a requirement of the town or the state, but any employee who works at that store has to get TAM certified, which will be an added safety guard. So that's something that they're going to do as their internal policy.
Now, do we have a copy of that in the package?
You should have both of their TAM certifications in the package. If not, I can certainly provide them.
Okay. I don't remember seeing it. Go ahead, Janet.
An additional question. I don't remember us talking about, what are you going to have installed on the premises to ensure the sale of alcoholic beverages are not sold to minors or to people under the influence? Because there is a, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a pizza place right across the street, and you can get beer and wine there. So theoretically, somebody could go in there and have some beers and decide they want to come across the street, buy some more. What if they've had too much? How are you going to determine that they've had too much, or how are you going to make sure that they're of age?
Right. So certainly part of TAM certification trains employees that are in liquor sales both to look for identification, how to spot a fake ID versus a real identification. They'll have on site the books that help that show the current and past driver's licenses for each state. So if someone comes in with a New Hampshire driver's license that's 4 years old, they know they'll be able to match that up whether it's actually a valid New Hampshire driver's license. TAM certification also trains staff to look for people that maybe are exhibiting signs of intoxication. And again, Kenneth's specialty, his business has been to train not only location he's at, but other Smoky Bones locations on knowing when to serve a client, when to shut them off, et cetera. So certainly, they'll pass that knowledge on to their employees, and I think just making their employees be TAM certified, which is something that I'm not aware of as a requirement in other liquor stores, but they feel strongly enough to make it a requirement in theirs. They'll also have, they'll also look at the technology that you can have in a store where you can take pictures of someone's ID. That often will dissuade someone from trying to use a fake ID in an establishment. So it is something that they're very concerned about. They live in town. They've been here. Joe's been here forever, I guess. And they certainly don't want any of that affecting the town and affecting their reputation in town.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Jen?
Not right now. No.
Oh, could you clarify, did you say that they were going to purchase this equipment, or they were looking at purchasing this equipment?
They will be purchasing. They haven't purchased it yet, but it's subject to getting approval, they will be purchasing.
Thank
yes.
you. I just wanted to be
Yep.
clear.
Any other questions, Laura?
Yeah, I think I did. Let me just clarify that.
They pass and go to George? Or?
Sure, that would be
Okay.
I'm
George,
all set.
you're all set? Okay.
I actually have a question that a resident called me and asked me to ask the question. So, actually, I had a few residents ask about this. So your hours are, say, 70 hours a week that they're going to be open. I'm not sure the exact hours, but I think it's.
Yeah, I haven't added it up, but I'll go
like
get
that.
somewhere around there. Yep.
But Mr. Pantuso, I believe on your application you said you would be there about 45 or 50 hours. Who's going to be there that's TAM certified? Are you planning on hiring right away? Who's going to be there to watch the store?
Right. So Joe plans on also working in the store, putting time in the store as well. Certainly some family might be assisting as well, and they will be TAM certified also. And then ultimately they will have, as hopefully the establishment starts to gain momentum, they'll hire employees to assist them. It's going to be a smaller boutique type store, as we talked about. It is going to be focused a lot on some craft beers. It's going to be one of the smaller locations in town, but they both, plan to spend time at the location to ensure that it's being run properly. They're not going to be absentee owners, which I think is what has caused another license that was there a few years ago further north to fail. You had an absentee owner that didn't have properly trained staff, didn't have good product, and people stopped going there. That's not what they want to see for this location.
Okay.
Is craft a chain beer, or is it
Craft
just going
beer-
to be an individual store?
Yeah, so craft beer is, think of it as a lot of specialty beers, that there'll be a big focus on, on providing specialty beers that might come from smaller breweries throughout the country, that, maybe will be more of interest to people than, a full shelf of one or two of the typical
But
brands
is
that we
this a
see.
franchise,
No,
or
this is a
this
privately
just
owned.
a concept of
Craft beer is more of the
concept?
type of product and the type of sort of direction that they
That
that
was
they
like
would
just
have with it.
Yeah, I think yeah, my question, you said it was BAM training?
TAM,
training?
yes,
'Cause
TAM.
I was looking on the state website, and they were indicating it was BAT. Is that an older?
BAT is
training?
another version of TAM. So BAT and TAM are for package stores. TIP is more for like a restaurant and a bar.
Right, okay.
Same thing.
Does the business model, will they be seeking tobacco and keno sale, or lottery sales in addition to this, or is it going to be exclusively liquor?
I don't know if you guys have made that.
As of right now, it's exclusively liquor.
Right now, it would be liquor right now. I mean, I can see if the need and the customers want, maybe look at lottery in the future. That tends to be a synonymous type use, but.
Well, understood, that is a synonymous use, and that's one of the
Yeah.
concerns, is it will directly put one of the other businesses out of business. He's struggling, is to.
Right.
Just selling just those products and a few candy bars, so
Right.
that will be a challenge.
Right. There's no plan to make it candy, just soda, gum, newspapers. I wouldn't want to restrict. I don't know if they've made the decision, but I certainly wouldn't want to restrict someone from selling lottery like any business could do. And
Exactly.
there are other competing businesses in Vinyl Square. When Zesties opened up, there was a pizza place across the street, and I'm sure it impacts sometimes someone else's business. But we try not to make those determinations.
One question that came up in the discussion, is there a location to put a dumpster on the property?
There is, just working with our engineer and working with the Board of Health, there will be a place for rubbish on site. And certainly the board can make the condition of their approval that he get proper refuse approved by the Board of Health, who manages that aspect of it. So that is one of their requirements, that there will be a place for trash on site.
I think those are.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Have more? Okay. Does the board wish to take any action at this point?
Close the public hearing? Unless somebody else wants to speak.
Make a motion.
You need to close the
Yep.
Yeah.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
second.
George made the motion, to close public hearing. Janet seconds it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. Okay, public hearing is now closed. Does the board wish to take any further action tonight, or, I know that in the past, there's been delays in issuing liquor licenses. I don't know if you want to waive that, or
I think
wait.
we're in the 2 week.
Or after the 2 week.
Yeah,
We're in
there's
the
nothing to waive. We're in the
Yeah, this is the
Second night.
proper process.
Oh, okay. So, no, I wasn't quite sure after you closed the public hearing if you have to wait the 2 weeks. No, okay. All right. Do I have any motions on, any action on this?
Well, I think we should discuss it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, here, I guess I'll start it off. This is tough because, I see two sides of this. One side is, as a board, we have a policy on, what's our criteria for granting a license. And on the other side of it, I'm hearing the residents and I'm hearing your concerns. And perhaps what folks don't know is, we did get a lot of response from residents in favor of this as well. We got a lot of emails that I know I've forwarded a lot of them over to the town manager's assistant, so it's part of the record. But I can't, it's tough for me again because I hear the residents, but at the same time, we had a process with the North Chelmsford Master Plan Committee. They had public input sessions. They had many people show up. They did surveys. They've done presentations of their draft report. They've come here as well. So I feel that the community has been heard. And the three criteria used to grant a license. Number one is, and this is according to Board of Selectmen policy, number one is the experience of the prospective licensee and manager and the responsible distribution of alcoholic beverages to the public. To me, that question has been answered, and I'm finding that they do have experience. They're TAM certified and they have professional experience in this area. Number two, safeguards that the prospective licensee commits to install in its premises as a condition of licensure to guard against the sale of alcoholic beverages to minors or to persons already under the influence of alcohol. That question has been asked tonight. I believe it has been answered not only through the TAM certification, but they will be purchasing equipment to ensure the accurate sale of alcohol. Number three, whether the specific area of town in which the prospective licensee seeks to locate its licensed premises is already served by other licensed premises. And the answer to that is, I don't believe the local area is adequately served. I mean, we've had two presentations now that, North Chelmsford 01863 does not have a liquor store. And again, while I am torn on this, I just also want to mention Chief Spinney is not opposed to this. I called him, I spoke with him to express, and make sure he heard some of the concerns of the residents. And he has taken neighborhood traffic and safety into account. And again, he's not opposed to this at all. So with all these reasons and the fact that, I need to follow Board of Selectmen policy and I need to listen to the entire community, my vote is going to be to grant this license.
Thank you, Janet. Laura?
Thank you, Bob and Janet. I have also looked at the criteria for, and studied this very hard. And with regard to the training, I think that they have a lot of experience. I hope since Joe has the predominant experience running a store, I hope that he is on site a lot in the beginning, because while I've heard about the other applicants' video store experience, I don't think that working a part-time job over the summer really gives you an idea of how to run a store. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be some significant challenges to that. But if Joe is unpresent, Mr. Reddy is unpresent, then it should work. Regarding the parking, I have looked at the town bylaws, and for a store of that size, they really should have 5 spots. When I look at the traffic study that has come in, 22 cars in an hour, they're going to need 2 or 3 spots to handle that at peak time. The Board of Selectmen, since 1996, have required that there must be one person in the front room at all times that the store is open, so they must have ample parking for at least 2 employees at all times, plus their now I have, when I looked at the parking for the lots that were described. The lot next to Rosie's is private parking, and if the clients wish to use that, they would need to have a legislative letter agreed on. If the parking lot across the street, next to the
Travel agency?
the travel agency, there is, according to what I read in the master plan, this final square plan, where there were 15 spaces. In order to include that lot legally, it needs to be 20 spaces or more, so we really can't include that. So we're really looking at 2 or 3 parking spaces right on the street, and that's all. I have a letter here from the town council for the Triangle store indicating that changing a retail store from standard retail to a liquor license would actually constitute a change of use. So at that point, I think that we would need to look at some of the, need to look at that parking issue again. And basically from personal experience, I'll continue down this road. Regarding the church being within 500 feet of the premises, the church minister or pastor apparently did sign the petition. According to the state, if the church does say that they have a problem with this and they can do it in writing, they can actually block this petition if we do not acknowledge that. And so I don't know if he knows that he would need to write a formal letter versus a petition, but that's what I found out on that. Regarding the local need, I have, and the fact that we have had this final square committee study that has gone on for 2.5 years. I live in the area. I have not been to any of the meetings. I found it very distressing that when I went online to find the minutes to any of these meetings, there was nothing publicized for the last 2.5 years, so I don't think there was any information for anyone who was not in attendance of those meetings, and and there are no minutes. I was forwarded the minutes for the many of the committee meetings, but I still have absolutely no information other than for the public input sessions. There are no minutes to that. That concerns me a lot because I have people telling me that everyone participated, and yet in the snowstorm 2 weeks ago, I got out of my car and I walked around and I couldn't find anyone who knew about it. I talked to businesses, I talked to residents. In the middle of also that week, my son was in the driving school, so I got to sit and park on Adams Street for 4 days straight, in the mornings and the afternoons. Day one, the mother in front of me made a U-turn on the one-way street and pulled out of Adams Street. On day two, it was the snow, and when I arrived at the school, there were 3 snow plows all over in front of the Taza Market, blocking everything. They couldn't get by. 2 weeks later, the sidewalks and the streets were still not plowed in that area. The snow, I hope, has finally taken care of that. The next day, day 3, I was parked on Adams Street, and I counted about half the cars that went by me did blow through the stop sign, five houses up. And finally, what did I say here? This one. On the day 4, we finally had all the parents who understood that the parking was one way, and it was a line of cars from the store almost all the way to the stop sign. So that was just trying to get through there. Regarding the parking, I understand that they've made a traffic study, but if there are any questions regarding parking, they need to do a parking study. And I haven't seen that done. We have had several liquor stores in North Chelmsford. They have gone out of business. We've had liquor stores. I went back in the minutes over the years, and they come and they go. So I think the argument that everyone wants a liquor store, I haven't seen it proven to me. I haven't seen it proven with the usage, and I haven't seen it proven by walking around to all the stores and the residents that I could find. In addition, I've taken notes in terms of who has contacted me, and it's not just a 50-50 split. It's significant. Let's see that for and against. I have town reps who have been calling me, as well as hearing third-person stories. And again, most people that I've talked to have not participated in the study, even though they are part of this community. And anyone that I've spoken to that lives in that neighborhood specifically is absolutely against it. I'm not necessarily against alcohol in Vinyl Square either, but I think this store, with this light, the way the traffic just shoots into that neighborhood, there's no way, if there was some way they could route around the building and get back into Vinyl Square, that might, but there's buildings all the way. You can't do anything but go right into this neighborhood and then pick which street you're gonna have to pull out of, and it's just a bad idea right there.
I did talk to Chief Spinney, and I asked him, if this was to move forward, to work with you to see what we could do for the Adams Street area. Why it's a one-way, I don't know. I don't know if it'd make it better for it to be a two-way, but there's got to be something to mitigate that. Even if a flower shop opens up right there, we're going to have parking concerns, and we're going to have traffic concerns. People are going to park down the blocks. I had quite a few people say to me, "Why can't we get a Starbucks in there?" And I was just, "Are you crazy?" I mean, it's you would shut down the square. But, what if somebody wanted a Starbucks and to put it there, or some coffee shop, and people go and they pay $1 for a cup of coffee or $3, and they sit there for 8 hours with free Wi-Fi. We have to do something regardless to protect the integrity of that neighborhood. And the one thing I'll just say is I know folks like to take pictures. They talk on Facebook and social media and say, "Oh my gosh, look at these people." Please call the police station. Don't post it on Facebook and complain about it. Please call the police. And that's coming from Chief Spinney. If you got pictures of cars and you got their license plate, just call them right away. They want to make North Chelmsford very safe. They have a police officer that's dedicated directly for that neighborhood. I would like to believe, and again, Selectman Merrill, I appreciate, I had these concerns as well. I go back to, did they meet the criteria as outlined in our policy? And is there a way, if this was to pass, the licensee holders, the business is going to have to coexist in this neighborhood and be good neighborhood citizens and participate, listen to the concerns. I was very impressed that, because I did hear concerns about the business hours, especially on Sunday, opening before noon. That's like almost a sin. So I really appreciate the fact that you're shortening those hours. And again, that's listening to the community. So again, if this passes, I think you're going to have a lot of work on your hands to really get the community involved, because you're only going to be successful if you're listening to them, because we're trying to drive a lot of foot traffic and bring people into Vinyl Square.
I think you brought up a lot of good points, Janet, and I'm sure you brought up some good points too, Laura, but there has been a license in Vinyl Square probably going back maybe 65 years. Billy Powers is...
I did. I looked and I did
It's
catch
the same
on the
license,
history.
it's just that it's moved around a little bit, and then because of people buying different property and whatever. And then when it finally went down at Thingsville Road, whoever had it was the last owner when he went bankrupt because he wasn't there, and his own people were stealing him blind or whatever it was. And so they were trying to get rid of it, and he couldn't get rid of it, so he he filed bankruptcy, so that's why it was in bankruptcy court, and that's why it's been tied up for a while. But there has been a liquor license in Vinyl Square for 60 years.
There hasn't been one like the last 3 or 4 years.
No,
I
there
don't
hasn't
really
been.
know anyone
It's the
that
same license.
hasn't been able to
Yeah.
drink when they need to.
So it's just, the
And
point
the
is, and all we are is a conduit for the ABC, basically. We can approve it locally because basically we don't have anything, in my opinion, to refuse it on. I mean, I can empathize with a lot of people's arguments, but if the ABC is not gonna listen to any of that stuff. There's certain rules and regulations they go by, certain criteria they go by, and even if we were to vote in a negative way, my opinion is that they would win on an appeal, but that's only my opinion, based on what the arguments against it are. I mean, it's a business. That's all.
I guess, to summarize, I got an email from a town meeting representative and indicating that how close a comparison that some of these arguments are to the Triangle Store arguments that we denied this liquor license. And I have to agree. Drivers hopping off at a major road to get alcohol, nearby bus stops with school children, neighborhood residential opposition. In fact, given the petition signed against Vinyl Square, I would argue the opposition is greater than at Vinyl Square. Proximity to park, proximity to driver training, and opposition from commercial tenants in Vinyl Square. I think based on the fact that we were so adamant against it being in Triangle Square, I don't see how these arguments can be ignored in this hearing. Unfortunately.
I got that email as well, and again, I empathize with the comments, but I think he's wrong, and here's why. Here's why we denied the Triangle Store. A lack of experience. That does not exist here. The bus stops were on the premises, not nearby. I don't know if you could open any business in Chelmsford and not have a nearby restaurant. The bus stops were on the premises. The police chief opposed that location. He said it would change the character of the neighborhood because it's right now, or it was a little store where people would walk and get some gum and a soda, and it was going to change and become more commercial. This is already a commercial district. We're not turning it into a commercial district. It already is one. Also, not to continue to drag his name through the mud, but a year before he came before us, he sold tobacco to a minor at 3:30 in the afternoon. And I took issue with that. He also had building code violations. And on both of those incidences, he delayed in resolving things with the town. He also delayed in responding to our questions regarding the sale of tobacco. So I don't think that's an apples to apples comparison there. I do think this is very different. And again, that's why I'm going to
He also told us that
support
he
it.
was going to hire somebody when he first came in. He told us he was hiring somebody, and he would have him at the next meeting that had full-time liquor store experience, and he never did bring him in. And so a lot of things he did were very questionable.
Well,
But he still could have maybe won on an appeal. They just decided they didn't want to appeal. So I don't know.
in the spirit of closing this up, all I wanted to say was that both George and myself sat on the Vinyl Square committee, and I know I attended all their public hearings and public events, and they had every person in the neighborhood in Vinyl Square were notified about these meetings, and if it was that they didn't want to go, then that's fine. But the opportunity was there, and it did come up with the four things that Mr. Iliopoulos said about liquor store was one of them, a bakery, and
A pub.
a what? Pub.
Pub.
Yeah, and a pub. And just to clarify, there are open units within Vinyl Square that, other businesses can move into, specifically where the Chinese restaurant was. And further down the road, there's some, the location next to the church, someday that may be developed as well. So we can't, unfortunately, we can't pick our neighbors, and this is zoned properly. And like George said, we'd be hard pressed to turn it down because ABC would probably come back and approve it. So if the board's ready to take action, I'm listening.
Motion.
Go ahead. I don't.
I make
The
a motion
paperwork
to
in front
approve the application for the license.
George has made a motion to approve the application for the liquor store.
Second.
Seconded by Janet. Any further discussion by the board? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The vote is 3-1, 3 in affirmative, 1 in against. And one not voting.
Recused himself.
That's it.
Thank you very much for your time these
Thank you.
last few meetings. Appreciate it.
We would just ask that as you're leaving the room, please try to be somewhat quiet so we can continue our agenda. Thank you. Ready to go home.
We started that at 5 minutes of 8. What time is it now? 9:30.
We'll let it settle down a little bit.
The rest of the paper.
You know where all these people are? He says,
I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
First of all,
Let me just move up here.
Let's wrap this up, Matt.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry,
So
Matt.
now we're going to move on to agenda item number 7, which is licenses. We have a one-day beer and wine license for the Chelmsford Public Library, February 5th, 2016. You're here. Would you like to come up and speak on behalf of the application? Great. If people in the audience could please quiet down slightly, that'd be appreciated so we can hear the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Kathy Cryan Hicks from the Chelmsford Library, and I'm here to ask for the beer and wine one-night license for our Winterfest social, which will be held on Friday night, February 5th, at the main library at 7 to 10 o'clock. We have some really special things planned that evening. We'll have food from local restaurants, beverages, and hopefully beer and wine will be included in that. I do also want to just mention that we're hoping that we'll hear from some more local restaurants. This is my opportunity to get the word out to help bring some nice foods for our tastings tables. Our one book program at the library this year is, we always kick that off on Winterfest Friday, is Keeping Chelmsford in Suspense. We'll be pushing mystery and suspense novels. So we're going to have Boston's Mystery Cafe there too. There'll be actors going around playing kind of an interactive clue, a live clue game. Tickets are only $15. I think if you are interested in going, you might want to get them quickly. It's going to be a fun program. And we've already sold a lot of tickets, so just get you that. Tricia has some over at the town manager's office, and both libraries will have some.
Okay.
So we just wanted to see about getting a beer and wine license for that evening. I think you have all the paperwork, including Becky Herman's tip certification. And if things work out, then Harrington's Wine and Liquors are coming over to provide the beer and wine for a small cost. So,
Any questions for the applicant?
Move to approve a one-day beer and wine license for the Chelmsford Public Library for February 5th, 16.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
great.
Congratulations.
That was easy.
Good
And
luck with the event.
I have some Winterfest flyers. I'll keep them right here for everybody to take. Okay?
Please do.
All right, thank you. Good
Thank you
night.
so much. Next on the agenda, we have a change of officers and directors for the Chelmsford Lodge of Elks at 300 Littleton Road.
Hi, my name is Warren Daniels. I'm the newly appointed chairman of the board of directors at the Chelmsford Lodge. And this is our application just to update our officers and directors listing with the ABC. We received a letter from the town saying we needed to do that.
Yes.
And so that's all this application is.
Right. And we appreciate you coming in. It is something they require, so.
If the board has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them, but.
It's pretty straightforward. Any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
A motion to approve change of officer director for the Chelmsford Lodge of Elks, 300 Littleton Road. The manager is Pamela Christopherson.
Yeah, she's the manager. These are just, this is the listing of the board of trustees and the directors who run the lodge
Oh, okay. So all those change?
Well, they change one or two every year, but
Okay.
I'd say as presented.
As presented.
Yeah.
Yes.
Second.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you for coming.
That was quick.
All set. It was.
Thank you.
No problem. You're welcome. Good evening. Next, we have a common vic license for Chelmsford Premium Meats, 120 Chelmsford Street.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Len Carpenter, and I reside at 2 Bannon Drive in North Andover, Massachusetts. And I am the owner of Chelmsford Premium Meats at 120 Chelmsford Street. And I come before you asking you for a common vic license. I know that Mr. Joyce was over there today walking through. My daughter told me. I'm not sure if anybody has been over there to take a look at it. I have a lot of information. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to walk them through it, answer any questions at all. So please start.
You have a floor plan in here. Can you tell us if anything has changed?
Nothing has changed here at all. This is the original square footage of the building. It is not 300, though. It is actually 245, and I have the actual initial print to show you. But it is that same layout. And this is the main retail area that you see over here, and I have some pictures that I can show you that go along with that. And from this area over here, which is the cash area, this area down here would be the meat buying area, as well as right here and right here. So there's always somebody on the floor that is going to be in and out of here watching what is going on. This is a two-top, a high top. This is a two-top, high top, two-top, high top. These are 6 stools that are along the glass facing out into the parking lot. This is a table that has 3 chairs, 3 chairs, 3 chairs, 3 chairs. The total seating in the area is going to be 24 people. And I'll give you some pictures here for each one of you to look at.
Oh, sure.
Hey, this was the former location of where you were going to sell the beer and wine at one time, right? Is that correct?
Anyway.
Bad vibes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll explain what these are when I
Yeah.
numbers on the top.
Thank you.
Number one that you have on top of your page, this actually shows if, as you walk in the front door, there's a glass window in front in the foyer. This picture was taken right through that glass front, so you can look straight down into that long area, which at one time was the proposed, yes, wine area. And you'll see that there's the round high top, which is this one right here that you see. And then further down, you see this one and this one on the right-hand side. And between those 2 round tops, as you look down, that is this opening right here, going out into the retail area. As you look down from the hutch coming back on the left-hand side, there are 3 tables there, and you can just see the corner of this table right here. Everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. And then the actual bar top runs right along the bottom of the page. If you go to number 2, you can see this is looking back from this area this way. To give you an idea of what that looks like. So you can see the service bar in the back, and there are 5 chairs there now. And again, you can see the opening on the left, and as it looks straight out into the foyer, through the glass onto the street. And in picture number 3 is taken from standing out here, looking into the room.
It looks very nice.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is very nice.
All the credit goes to my wife.
You've
Nice
seen it,
job.
right?
I went there-
It always
went there
does.
today.
Tell her.
Yes, it does.
Capacity?
24 seating capacity right there. Spotting, right? Yep.
Okay. So we see this is still contingent upon building and fire department approval.
Yeah, as of early this afternoon, it was indicated that the fire had signed off, Board of Health had signed off, and it was the building department who was yet to come over and take a look at this.
Okay.
Why don't we just make a motion to?
Yeah,
Contingent.
contingent. Yeah, we can do that in the motion.
Well, I will attest that it's very nicely done. I was there today, and I think it
Spend any money?
will be a nice addition. I was spending money. Want to know how much? Anyway. Anybody else?
Right.
No, I just think we should just.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can. There's a
Motion
motion
right
on the
there.
back of
Okay.
that page, actually, if you are interested. Any other comments, members of the board? No, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve a common victuals license for BM Carpenter LLC, DBA Chelmsford Premium Meats to be exercised on the premises at 120C Chelmsford Street, contingent upon building and fire department approval. Which the fire department's already approved, but waiting for the building department.
And it was
I will second.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? That's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations and good luck.
Use that menu.
Yeah.
This is good.
We will now move on to reports and presentations. We have Richard Day here to discuss hotel regulations regarding the state homeless families. Is he here this evening?
He was.
It's like in that back room.
He was, yeah.
Maybe,
Standing in the doorway most of the night.
He may be just,
Is he outside, maybe?
we'll just double check if he's in that room quickly. Or outside. One moment.
Turn the, do you think it'd be too much to turn the fan on? Would that be too cold? There is no air circulating.
And if you want to check if Susan's coming back with Mr. Day.
Maybe the crowd's gone, we can open the door.
Yeah.
She's gonna go look tip from down at his office.
Yeah, we don't want to.
Move on to Bay State. That may take a few minutes. I guess
We don't
we'll just
what?
move on.
Skip past it, come back.
I'll just move on.
Disturb 'em.
Why don't we just move on to, because I'm not sure how long that's going to take. We have John Shortsley from Bay State Consulting as well as Jeremy Lutz from Constellation Energy here to discuss our energy aggregation program. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank
Also
you.
have Paul Gromer.
Oh, Paul,
from
good evening.
Peregrine Energy Group. So, Paul, you asked if we could do two things here this evening. If you, the board is, I think, is familiar with the aggregation program, but some of the
Yes.
folks who are tuning in for the first time, that may be watching on TV, this is new to them. So if you want, and I can, in 5 or 6 minutes, do aggregation 101 for those residents.
Yeah, we understand that the public hearings were pretty well attended, and there are a lot of people who watch. So if you could help inform them, yeah, just that quick overview of really
High
what this
level,
is all
yeah.
about, high level, that would be
Sure.
fine.
All right, so municipal aggregation is it's a fancy word for a group purchasing program. This is a unique one that's created by statute, the Electric Restructuring Act of 1997, and there are certain rules about how it works. There's 4 of them I think are relevant. The first rule is that you can't start until you have a town meeting vote, which happened here in May of 2014. The second is that you have to develop a plan and bring it to 2 state agencies and get their review and approval, which we did. That's really Paul's doing, his part of this team, his specialty.
Thank you,
We
Paul.
got that approval in September. And the third thing is that once you get that green light, you can then go out for a competitive procurement. That's where I come in. We did manage that competitive procurement. We had 5 bidders, and on November 4th, the town of Chelmsford signed a contract with the low bidder. Turns out to be Constellation, had an attractive price and good terms and conditions. The fourth rule under the Restructuring Act about how you run one of these is there's some definition of what has to be included in a public education program. And the statute spends the most time on the opt-out process and the opt-out letter. There are probably many consumers watching this tonight that have received the opt-out letter that describes the program and gives residents the opportunity to opt out. That letter, the content of it, was reviewed and approved by the Consumer Division of the DPU before it was sent. With the public education, and there have been, as you say, several meetings, community center, senior center, coming up in the library, well-attended meetings, meetings such as this. Public education program is over. When it's over, the deadline for opting out is January 22nd. The letter went out on December 16th. If residents do not opt out, or small businesses do not opt out, they will be automatically enrolled in the program. So the program is scheduled to launch on the first meter read in February. So the first bill that residents would see that would cover the rates for the program would be in their March bills, covering the February to March timeframe. That's the procedure, that's the process. 2 comments on the contract itself. The price is 9.3 cents. It's an attractive price. It's a little bit more than 3.5 cents lower than the current winter rate of National Grid. The other interesting feature of the contract is it's a consumer-friendly contract. It's been well vetted. It's 50 or 60 pages long, but the most critical provision is that residents who do not opt out will be automatically enrolled in the program, and if they are therefore in the program, that starts a 24-month contract term. During those 24 months, Constellation is committed to the 9.3 cent price, but the consumers in Chelmsford are not. They have the right to opt out at any time over the 24-month term. That's a fairly unusual feature. I think that one of the easier ways to look at this kind of a program is what is changing and what's not changing. And there's a longer list of things that aren't changing that is helpful to understand. National Grid will continue to own the wires and deliver the electricity the way they always have. They will continue to read the meters. They will continue to submit the bill, to invoice the residents. One of the only things that will change as of the March bills is that the line on the bill that describes the supply charge currently in the January, in the winter time frame, it's basic service at 13.03 cents. What it will say in the March bills is Constellation at 9.3. So if you do nothing and you stay in the program, the one change you will see is a rate reduction in March. Advantages, why do this? What are the advantages of the program? There are 3. The first is rate stability. People, I think, are familiar with how these rates have gone up and down, wild swings of like 5 cents between the winter rates and the summer rates. This is a fixed rate, 9.3 cents for 24 months, so there's rate stability. Savings, currently there's obvious savings as compared to the winter National Grid basic service rate, pretty healthy savings, more than 3.5 cents. The National Grid rate will change, it'll drop in the summer and then go back up again the next winter. It'll drop again and go back up near the tail end of the program, November, December, January. We don't know what the future rates are going to be. We certainly cannot guarantee what the savings are going to be. The plan and the expectation is that there will be savings on average compared to the 24-month average National Grid rate. If the rate drops dramatically, And any consumer that's in the program wants out, they can opt out with no penalty and no fee. So there's expected savings, and I think the third advantage is consumer protection. These programs, when they're first announced, they tend to engender a lot of competitive pressure on the part of other suppliers that will either start making telephone calls to residents or even door-to-door knocking on doors. The town program is not doing that. If someone's calling you on your phone or somebody is knocking on your door, it's not the town's program that's doing that. This contract has been thoroughly negotiated and thoroughly vetted. It is consumer friendly. There are no hidden fees, and I think that's an advantage. With that, I'll take questions, or Paul will take questions.
I have a quick question, because I've been asked this by a few residents. Will they receive confirmation that they opted out? So they send in the postcard. Do they get anything back, or they just need to watch their March bill to make sure that it doesn't say Constellation?
Yeah, correct.
Could you just, the microphone, if you want to just, thank you for coming.
Yep, thank you for having me. And that's correct. They will not get any kind of confirmation. There won't be any kind of affirmative response. It's just on their March bill. The line item will say Constellation on it, and the rate will be reflective of the program rate.
Okay, so if for whatever reason there's a mix-up and they wanted to opt out and it says Constellation on there, they just call a number and...
Yep, and our number should appear on the bill as well. Our customer service number should appear on the bill. So they just call that number and we'll opt them out.
Okay, thank you.
And that number is also on the town website, and as well as you can opt out. There are a number of ways of opting out. One is the telephone call. The other is go to the Constellation website, which is on the town website. And the third is if another supplier, if you want to go with another supplier, he will run through the opt-out process for you.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Great. I think that was a very good overview. Those are the main questions that I think is really important that we tell our residents, because it's the questions we ask. Am I still going to get my National Grid bill? And do I still call National Grid if my power goes out or if I have an issue? And I think the answer to all those questions was yes. So I think that was a great sort of high-level overview of this program. And we appreciate you coming in tonight. And thank you for your help this far.
There was some codes were entered wrong initially. Has that all been straightened?
There was, and that's why we've invited this gentleman
Yes.
to the meeting from Constellation to explain that.
Yes, unfortunately, the opt-out letters were sent out with incorrect codes that didn't work on the website. So when we became aware of it, we made changes to the website so that there was not a prompt for the codes to be entered. There were other ways, other information for the customers to enter that allowed them to opt out that way.
Great. Thank you.
And there is one more information session this coming Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock over at the the Chelmsford Community Center, the North Town Hall. We had two previous ones last week. One was last Wednesday evening at the library, at the Adams Library, and there were 100 people in attendance, and that went really well. And we spent an hour in presentation and then stayed a half hour and answered individual questions, because sometimes people don't feel comfortable asking in front of a group that large. And then we were over at the senior center after lunch, and there were about 60 plus residents there, and it was sort of same format. You know, we provided an overview, then answered general questions, and then stayed afterwards. And that'll be the process on this Wednesday evening as well over at the senior center. I'm sorry, the North Town Hall at 7 o'clock. We'll do the same thing. We'll do an overview, a little more longer than what was it this evening. Explain how the program works, why it works, and then answer questions either in a group setting and then individually. And again, also people have concerns, they can call our office, at the town hall, and I know they can also call the Peregrine's number as well, which is on the mailing. We're doing everything we can to provide people with information.
Paul, are any of these meetings recorded and rebroadcast?
No, they haven't been. Telemedia hasn't come out and taped them and so forth.
I
like I said,
it's a value. I mean,
yeah.
They could even send a guy over
but I
with
neglected
one
to, I
camera.
neglected to mention one thing. I did tape a 25-minute program with John, and we went into what he discussed and these issues for 25 minutes. So we did do
Oh,
a
okay.
cable program. It's on the telemedia website on demand. It's also being run periodically throughout this month. And on the town managers roundtable, we went through that
Is there
as
a
well.
link on our site?
I can check to
for
see
that?
if there's a link, but we have.
That'd be helpful.
Okay.
It was on the Globe Awards last night.
All right. Any other questions for members of the board or comments?
Great presentation, thank you.
Thank you very much for coming
Thank
this
you.
evening. Okay, so still don't see Richard Day. Do we know?
No,
if
I did
he-
get a text back from Richard Day, because I did text him and say, are you still in the building, what had happened? Unfortunately, he had to depart.
Okay.
He did note in his message that he sends us deep apologies, and also noted that the Board of Health will vote on possible changes on the hotel homeless at its February's meeting.
Okay.
Its February meeting.
All right. Well,
I apologize for this gentleman, because he just couldn't stay any longer. I don't think any of us anticipated that the hearing
But we
that
still let him
preceded this-
speak.
Yeah,
Right.
so-
Because
You're welcome to come up.
he was at the last meeting, I remember that, so.
Yeah, so I told you at the beginning of the meeting that I'd let you speak during this portion. He's not here to say his part, but certainly if you don't want to wait till the next meeting, you can say your piece now, and we'll listen to his side of the story at one of our next meetings whenever he can come. So if you'd like to, come now. You sat through our whole meeting. We appreciate you being patient with us.
That's okay. I appreciate the time. I know this was unscheduled, so I do appreciate it. I'll try to keep my comments as brief as possible.
Could you just repeat your name for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Andrew Webman. I work at the Northeast Justice Center. We're a legal aid organization that serves among northern Middlesex County and Essex County, Chelmsford, Lowell area in particular. And among the things that our organization does is we place families and individuals in emergency assistance shelters or homeless shelters. So I just want to briefly give an overview. The Board of Health passed a regulation that essentially limits the room size or the number of people that can stay in a room by square footage, and also the number of days then a certain number of people can stay in a room. So for instance, if you have 2 people, they can only stay in a room that's 250 square feet. If you have 2 people, they can only stay in that room for 14 days, a single room, like a single hotel room. Our organization objects to this for several reasons. One, these rules effectively limit accommodations available to families with children, in particular, experiencing homelessness. Our position is that these rules probably violate the federal and state discrimination laws. And this, we don't doubt that these rules are well-intentioned, that there is a problem, and we share the concerns that conditions that these families are put in are not ideal. The length of time, as well as some of the accommodations, are not ideal. However, where a rule particularly targets families and disproportionately affects families and how their access to accommodations, these laws are challengeable under federal and state law, and our position is that those challenges will likely succeed. Again, the square footage requirements limit the number of units available to families, and the length of stay requirements limit the amount of time that these families can stay. As I said, we share concerns that these conditions are not ideal, but the effect of the rule can be quite severe. So, for instance, there's already a shortage of accommodations available to these families. It's estimated that fewer than half of homeless families even find shelter at all, let alone in a motel. By making these rules unavailable, these families will have to be put further away. As it stands, what DHCD does, which is the organization that administers this, is they are required to find temporary housing for families within 20 miles of where they used to live. And for instance, families in Lowell would hope to get housing within 20 miles. If there is no housing available, they can be put anywhere in the state. That means Worcester, that means Springfield. And the practical effect of that is that children and the parents in those families are taken away from their support structures, families, hospitals, medical providers, as well as jobs and schools. This can not just mean lost days in schools, but lost jobs, making it that much harder for these families to get back on their feet. Finally, I just want to say that families are often moved around a lot when they're in the shelter process. So the limits, such as these 10-day limits for say a mother of 2 toddlers, so 3 people in a standard hotel room, they can only stay there for 10 days. When you're put in shelter, that means you've lost your housing, you're in 10 days in shelter. That's not nearly enough time for people to find apartments, other alternative housing, which means they'll either get shuffled around or they'll have no place to go. So, these rules can be quite severe. And finally, I'd also like to note that these homeless families the screening process is incredibly rigorous. So not only are bad actors screened out, but many families are turned away for technical reasons, such as having the wrong forms of ID, not having the right paperwork in order. So it's a pretty rigorous process. And even at the end, if you're limiting their stays to 10 days, or if you're not allowing these families to stay in available rooms in motels in Chelmsford. From the last meeting, I understood that the largest room in the Best Western is 299 square feet, and as the rules stand, for instance, for a mother of 2 toddlers, 3 people, the requirement is a room of 350 square feet, which means a mother of 2 toddlers would need 2 rooms in order to stay anywhere in Chelmsford, in a motel, in a homeless shelter. That is simply not acceptable for a family who might need to stay in the area to keep a job, things like that. And finally, I'd just like to end by saying that while we share concerns about conditions not being ideal, this is not the proper way to address these concerns. What the Board of Health is trying to do is quite explicitly force the state's hand by targeting those who are most vulnerable, and that's families with children. And that's just not an acceptable way of going about this. The governor's administration is paying attention to these issues, and they are trying to address these issues. It's a complicated problem, but I would ask that that's the proper mechanism with which to address these concerns. And finally, I admit that I'm ignorant of the specific political processes involved, but I'd ask that the board urge the Board of Health to reconsider this rule, specifically either repealing the rule altogether, which is our position, or at least seriously expanding the requirements that they've already set forth. So that's what I have to say. Yes.
Who is the New England Justice Council? Is that what it is, New England Justice?
I'm the Northeast Justice Center. We're a legal services organization, so we serve low-income people who are in need of legal services.
You do a lot of pro bono work and things like that?
Yeah, it's essentially pro bono. We get our funding. I personally get a salary from my organization, but our funding comes from the state and from government and from nonprofit and things like that. And we serve. For instance, we do everything from family law to housing, eviction cases, things like that for people who qualify. So if their income is low enough, then they qualify for our services, and we help them.
So you do a lot of subcontracting through the state, maybe?
No, I mean, we get grants from various things. Like for instance, my grant is through the Attorney General's office. I actually do post-foreclosure defense work. So it depends on the grants, and each grant has different requirements and such.
You have a telephone number?
I do. I actually have a
Drop
card.
off some cards.
I do.
I can pass them.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate your idea about potentially reaching out to them with a letter of support some way or another, one way or another. But we definitely would want to wait to hear from Richard Day, before making any decision like that. So we'll take that under advisement, though.
They are different. They're autonomous, I guess is the word I'll say. They're elected.
Yeah, they're an autonomous.
Elected office.
Yeah.
And we don't like to interfere much, or at all, most of the time. But have you tried to sit down and have an off-the-cuff conversation with them?
I went to the last hearing on this issue. I expressed similar views. My understanding was that the Board of Health was going to revise the specific requirements. From my understanding, that was not done. The rules have stayed in place. They are not set to go into effect until the end of the school year, is my understanding.
July 16th, I think.
In June or July. But the concerns remain. The timing is, for one person in a single room, it's 19 days. I mean, again, the conditions are not ideal, but 19 days is not enough time for anybody to find alternative housing when they've just been, oftentimes they're homeless because they don't have the money to save up to do anything. And, if 19 days is the limit and they have to be moved on, they could be moved to a place that's far away where they could lose their job. So, again, I just want to reiterate concerns that this rule is exceptionally severe, and that to the extent that any influence can be had to have the Board of Health go over these rules or repeal these rules, I would encourage the Board of Selectmen to do that. And I'd also like to say that if these rules can also be challenged in court, again, as I said, under federal or state discrimination laws. So to the extent that the town would have to defend from such a lawsuit. My organization is not committed to bringing any such lawsuit, but to the extent that happens, I mean, that could be a potential cost.
Did you submit any recommendations to the Board of Health of what your office believes is fair?
Not specifically. I attended the hearing and gave my oral comments. No, other than our position is that as it stands, we believe that a repeal of the rule is the best approach, and to try to lobby the state directly as opposed to sort of go circuitously around to again target vulnerable families.
Do you have on your website exactly what you're advocating for with the governor?
No, I don't, but I'd be happy to follow up with some information on that.
Would love to see that.
You can send that to us. I mean, all of our email addresses are on the website. So if you have any other information you'd like to send us, that would be great.
Okay, sure. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you for coming this evening. Okay. Now we will move on to the town manager's report, agenda item number 9.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now that we've hit the 10 o'clock hour, we're going to go to what I call the lightning round. So,
all right.
Yes. Real quickly, just want to inform the board and the community, and there'll probably be a press release coming out in the next couple of weeks. The town of Chelmsford is pleased to report that we've been selected as the by the Mass Municipal Association 2016 Annual Town Report Contest. We were the first place finisher in Category 1, which is population of communities 12,500 above, followed by Barnstable and Arlington. And so I don't recall the town ever winning. I think last time we showed, and this time we've a few years back. And so and I just really want to thank my assistant Tricia Duras and the town department heads and others who contribute to the report, because it is an undertaking, and we view it, and we obviously take it seriously, as a history book. Because years from now, and people go back and they say, what happened to that town, and from the town clerk in terms of what happened at town meeting to, what was going on in the police department at a given point, community, and so forth. So just wanted that recognition. The second one, which we sort of got doubly surprised, is we then, a couple weeks later, again, since our last meeting, we received that the town of Chelmsford was selected as the municipal website award for Category 2 communities, which is communities with a population of 15,000 to 50,000. And we were honored by that selection as well. Again, both of these awards will be presented at the MMA annual meeting that comes up in a couple of weeks. Again, there'll be press and release coming out of that. But again, I just really want to thank Tricia and my assistant, as well as the department heads, again, who try to keep the website. I mean, it's difficult doing a website, trying to keep it current, and everybody has an opinion on a website, but we really just wanted to recognize the efforts by the community to have transparency and get information out there.
And each individual page, like you said, they keep getting better and better. It seems like people are adding a lot more information.
And we were kind of surprised because we were actually planning on updating our website in about 18 months, per our contract and so forth. So we're committed, obviously, continuous improvement. The next thing I just wanted to quickly report to the board. A week ago was the deadline for citizen petition town meeting warrant articles. We received one citizen petition article. It was submitted by Dorothy Howcroft, has been certified by the town clerk's office, and the request is a zoning article. It's to rezone a parcel of land located at 50 Hunt Road from RB residential to CB roadside commercial. It's basically an extension of the CB district that goes out there. It's, for people familiar, it's at Hunt Road and Littleton Road. It's where you see all the piles of material there. So right now, we have sent it to town council because as the board's directive, when we receive a citizen petition article, our goal is to place it on the warrant so that when we get to town meeting, we don't have legal technicalities, because and so we're doing that now. It's been sent to council, so it'll appear on the list of articles that come before you. Next meeting, I'll give you a draft, and then in February, you'll get a subsequent drafts of the warrant, and then your first meeting in March, you'll sign the spring annual town meeting warrant. So I wanted to let the board know that was the one article.
I would think that's spot zoning.
No, it's extension of the current
The
zoning
existing?
area. So it basically, the property's at the line, so
Yeah.
it's basically moving the line further down for the CB.
Oh, okay.
That's how I understand it.
Yeah, I think that's legal.
So it's an extension of the existing CB district as opposed to spot zoning, which was the concern.
Yeah, now, I noticed that there were two sets of sheets.
Yes, there were multiple sheets that went out, yes.
They were both certified?
Yes, they only need 10
But
signatures.
it's only one article.
Yeah, they only need 10 signatures, yeah.
Okay. I thought I was missing something.
So that's what's going on there. And then you heard earlier this evening, the status of the home rule petition town hall liquor licenses. Governor Charlie Baker signed the act on January 6th last week. It's now Chapter 168 of the Acts of 2015 for the liquor licenses for the town halls. And so,
Do we need to commission a group to write some rules or regulations?
well, you have rules and regulations for issuing licenses.
No, but I
Well,
mean as far as when the CCA and CCC,
Right.
Like
Oh, right.
procedural.
Their management policies, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll work with them now to draft how they're going to administer the licenses, because we'll have them come before you.
Yeah.
And then we'll also have to get insurance, because if you're
Right.
holding and serving,
Liability.
liability insurance. So but I did want to report to the board and the community that work is done. That's
you.
all I have under my report. For town manager bid awards, we just have one matter for that this evening. It's for the Roberts Field Master Plan Contract Award, and you see the correspondence in the packet from Shana Mickle, that the Roberts Field Improvement Committee has unanimously voted and is recommending that the board accept the proposal from Howard Stein Hudson in the amount of $18,500 to complete a master plan for Roberts Field. You want to come on up, Nick, and address this? Since you waited a long, been out this late.
Full disclosure, I watched it down in the gym, and I did the equivalent steps to the Empire State Building. So this is for the requesting approval for a engineering firm to do a master plan for Roberts Field. We bid it out 3 times. Each time we bumped up the price and reduced the scope. So this was the only bid we received over the 3 times of bidding it out. And this isn't for doing anything in particular. This is just to put a master plan together for the property. And from the town's perspective, that playground is coming towards the end of its functional life. And we see this as a good opportunity to jump on that bandwagon and slip in a new playground in the master plan design.
Now, they had bricks there with names. Are you
Yep.
planning on keeping those?
I mean, this is just the to do the master plan.
You'll make a recommendation?
Yeah, I think they have every intention of keeping that.
Oh, okay.
But
I think I'm in there.
Oh, glad you finally got a bid.
Yep.
And the person's
Yep,
qualified.
and this is being paid for $15,000 out of CPC and $3,500 out of the fundraising they've done already.
All right. Is there any other questions? Oh, I'm excited to see what comes out of it. It's approved. Is there a motion to approve?
Move we approve the bid award by the town manager for the Roberts Field Master Plan.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Move on to appointments for the deputy constable position.
Mr. Chairman, this is the annual appointments of deputy constables. As you can see, they run for the calendar year. And so Sandra Goulet has submitted a list. I think you'll see the list is familiar. That's generally the same list for prior years. So I would ask your confirmation of these appointments to deputy constable. In the event that there, as you know, just in case there's a question, in the event, and there will be an event that there'll be a different constable after the town election, this doesn't burden anybody with anything. The new person could come in and either choose to continue to work with these people and/or appoint others. So
Right.
it doesn't. I didn't want anybody to get the impression that because I'd mentioned they were for the calendar year 2016 that we were anyway constraining the duly elected constable who will be certified after the town election.
Oh, that's good to know. Thank you.
Usually a few more than
Yeah,
that.
I think maybe just people who just want to do it.
Does the town constable get a fee still?
Yes, they
Of putting up the
yes,
warrants?
we do get a fee for
Okay,
posting
all right.
town warrants. But most of their activity, which is why you have deputies, it's really civil service.
Right, they're doing civil.
Right,
yeah.
it's really not town.
I move to approve the deputy constables as recommended by Sandra L. Goulet, interim constable.
Motion was seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Great. Move on to meeting minutes. We have regular meeting minutes of December 15th, 2014, November 2nd, 2015,
How
November
did that
16th.
2014 get in there? Was that just missed somehow?
Apparently somebody missed something, because I sent that out over a year ago, and guess it was
Uh-oh.
approved.
That was on my watch? Uh-oh.
Here we go. Okay, I was just curious.
surprised as you were.
You look so
Okay.
distressed, Bob.
Yeah, I am. Move to approve the regular meeting minutes of December 15th, 2014, with a slap on the wrist to Bob Joyce.
Laura wasn't here. Does someone else?
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? One abstention.
Yeah, just an editorial comment. We have made in the last couple of weeks, and I know Laura made the concern earlier about minutes not being approved and put on our website. We've been aggressively chasing this down since the end of the holiday period to get these things on there.
Yeah.
And this probably is how this arose, was in the check.
Okay, great. And then we do have the other 2 minutes just from November 2nd. Would you like to make those?
Let's see, move to approve the regular meetings from November 2nd, 2015.
Do you want to add the November 16th as well?
And the regular meeting minutes from November 16th, 2015.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Great. Any liaison reports?
Yeah, I just want to let all those people out there that are wondering what happened to me. I slipped in my driveway on the first snowstorm of the year.
No luck.
Get well cards can be sent to.
We all signed a big one for you.
That's it.
Just
Well, we
have-
hope you feel better. so.
Just real quick, the school committee's going to have a public input session on Tuesday, January 26th at 6 o'clock p.m. at the South Row Elementary School cafeteria, and it'll be followed by a regular school committee meeting at 7 p.m.
Great. Any
Regarding the Neshoba Tech, Dr. Judith Klimkowitz retired last December after 20 years, and they are in the process this week of interviewing for her
She's
position.
still there.
So she's still there, or is
Yeah,
she no
I
longer
talked to
there?
her.
She's still
talked to her today.
helping out. She's retired
Okay.
until...
So she's retired, now
Oh,
she's
that
getting
isn't-
extra money to work on a part-time basis.
Well, that isn't what she told me, because I
pension.
spoke to her today, and they hadn't picked her successor yet.
No, they're
No.
interviewing
Yeah.
this week.
She submitted her retirement to the.
Yeah.
She was supposed to be retired
so-
as of
right.
the end of the month,
Oh.
and they
She's
did
working
not-
till mid-February, she told me.
Yeah, it's, but they are in that process right now,
Good.
so hopefully they'll get to they'll
And they
find a
will be
successful
having a-
candidate.
The superintendent.
They will be having a retirement party for her as well.
And the only other
Acting-
thing
an acting
that I
one.
have is the library was working on launching a new website, and
They
I
have,
believe they got that out in the last couple of weeks. Very exciting, new jazzy.
Who's that?
Check it out.
Library is the
Library.
website.
Yes.
Great. Any other liaison reports? Just announced now the holiday's over. You can find me on Thursdays from 5 to 6 p.m. at Panera in Drum Hill for my office hours. Are there any press questions this evening?
Not if I want to have any hope of meeting my deadline today.
I know. What do you have, 5 more minutes? Oh, jeez. Well, thank you. We do have an executive session,
Yep,
so
I make a motion that we go into...
Brief executive session.
Make a motion, we go in executive session for strategy with respect to collective bargaining police sergeants. And we will not to return to public session.
and that'll be roll call.
Aye.
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 It's unanimous. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
To adjourn.